Hey everybody, we'll be starting here in a couple minutes. We had a little tech stuff in the back end because, you know, wouldn't be a show if there wasn't fucking gremlins. We're going to be doing some Aetherdark design, a little bit of an encounter build live on the show. Micah, right? Name's right? Am I saying that right? Micah? All right. That was one of my favorite artists that worked with me on Sunder Studios, same name. We are going to be doing design live, so get yourselves together. If you back the Kickstarter, I would highly recommend going and downloading the quick PDFs that are there as well. I'll put a link in chat for all those that are here if you're interested in taking a look yourself. We'll go over the Kickstarter at the start of the show, just kind of talking about what Aetherdark is, why, all the questions I had during my review, and so on. So strap in, stay rotten, get your drink, and we'll be live here in about 11 minutes.
It's been nearly 50 years since the introduction of the fantasy role-playing game. In that time, we've traded tomes of paper and ink for virtualized manifestations of the table. But this great game of the mind has always taken place in our collective imaginations. Welcome to Alchemy RPG. Create interactive scenes and experience gameplay in an intuitive storytelling environment, meticulously designed to amplify cinematic immersion within the theater of the mind. Craft your worlds beyond words. Immerse yourself and your players in your creations with lore-rich articles. Fully mechanized NPCs, and pre-made player characters. Effortlessly stream your tales directly from Alchemy, while onlookers cheer for your heroes on perilous paths of adventure. Discover a universe of immersive story worlds like never before, with unforgettable adventures ready to be had at the touch of a button. Breathe new life into your stories by harnessing the power of the Alchemy platform, a window into any world.
my tippies.
So, create a part of this on my city's cap. Me venomous when I run the digging. I still got the juice, bitch, boy, you see me. I will never slip me like a piggy. Stay in your sorry lane, bitch. I am not a gay. I know that these bitches try to be legit. I am such a cash bitch, throw on your mini. Wow, don't wanna play with me. Let the power in, get it, cause the sky is the limit. Come on, I saw you buy, and you go with one remix. 8 plus 80 must be crazy.
Give me my tits.
Give me my chance. Give me my chance. Then take away so I want. Bitch, give me my chance. Give me my chance. Bitch, give me my chance. Then take away so I hit it up again.
All right, everybody, it's time. Let's get the show on the road, shall we? Is everybody ready in chat? Are we creatively ready as a group? Because we're going to be doing some creating today. So I need you guys to be on your A game. I see Cree in chat. I see Serving. I see a few others. Let me get our CT Knight. Let me go over to this. Let's start it up. Bats, are you here today? Hey everybody, how are we doing today? I'm super excited. We haven't done an actual interview / design show on Rise and Design yet. Usually Rise and Design's on Saturdays, but I've been thinking about shaking it up because I have a big summer thing coming up to where I'm not going to be available all the normal days. But I still want to do all the shit that I do. And the only way to do that is to kind of start shaking it up. So hey, it's going to be all right. We're going to be doing Rise and Design some Saturdays, but I think it's going to take over the Wednesday slot for the summer here coming up in June. Don't worry, Monday nights are going to be here and everything else. Today, we're going to be doing some work with Aetherdark. It's a Kickstarter going on right now. I believe it's got 5 days left, already funded, 337 backers as of when I was looking at it. There's a lot here. This is a big book. Like if you set it next to Shadowdark, you got 2 thick books ready to rock and roll, but this one focused specifically on, I would say, airship combat, but sailing the astral sea. And for those who know Spelljammer, it's kind of filling that void for myself for Shadowdark. But we have Micah here, so we can actually talk a little bit more about what Aetherdark is about, what we're getting out of it, why the Kickstarter, the whole 9 yards. Then we're going to go into designing what I have named now boarding, maybe as my time working in an airport, and we'll see if we can't get something put together over the course of an hour and a half, like normal. So let me bring Micah on here, and we will talk a little bit about what he's doing and go from there. Hey, Micah, we got all your tech problems done. We're running now. It's working.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yes, yeah, hopefully. Hopefully. So you have built a big book, and I mean big. Like, we haven't seen a ton of Shadowdark other third-party publisher content come out that's like 300 pages. But you said you converted this from another system and brought it over. You're like, this is my system now. I'm building it for this. Was this for 5e before, or Rollmaster? What was it before?
This all went about basically completely backwards. Like, if you were to plan out a way to do something, this would be the dumbest possible way to do it.
The wrong fucking way.
Like, you want to go back to the origin. They were coming out with Spelljammer for 5e, and I was looking at it, and they were like, you can explore infinite worlds. And then they had a list of worlds where they're like, Dragonlance.
Yep.
Oh, that's Western European medieval.
Yep.
Oh, Forgotten Realms, Western European medieval. Oh, Greyhawk. Wait, that's also Western European medieval. They had a list of worlds of infinite worlds. 100% of them were Western European medieval. And I thought to myself, well, that's dumb. I should make some worlds that are unique, actually weird. And because
they didn't do that at all. And Spelljammer used to have a bunch of weird worlds, and they just took them all away.
It used to have some. But they were just like, let's go all Western European. And most of the old ones, like, those haven't been updated forever. So I was like, I'm a writer. I'll write some stories. Then I'll make settings from the game, stories. And I'll make these worlds, and this will be fun. And I did that. That was fun. I wasn't blown away when Spelljammer came out, but I was like, whatever, you know, I'll work with it. And
well, you can say it wasn't blown away. It was fucking garbage. It crushed the soul of Spelljammer fans. The only thing good was the trade dress.
Yeah, but you know what? You work with things. And I was like, you know, I can work with this. But working with 5e when you're trying to do things that have rule tweaks, that was getting kind of hard. But I was sort of powering through. Yeah. And then that was the Christmas, after Spelljammer, over Christmas, they did the OGL catastrophe. I was like, man,
oh, God.
I'm bending over backwards here to build content off of this.
And then just went,
then you're going to do this? So I was like, well, if I'm going to make all these worlds, I need to have a game system to run them in. So over Christmas, I did a homebrew, complete unique. I was like, F all this, I'm going to go from scratch.
Yeah.
And then towards the end of that, and I was like, okay, this is passable, this is okay. And then Shadowdark came out, and I was like, I mean, why am I working so hard when here's a good option to hitch my wagon to? And I was like, I had a good feeling about Kelsey. I thought, it looks like she knows how to build a community, and that's what I want. I want to be able to, I want to be able to make my stuff and give it to a community. I don't want to, you know, that build a community work is hard.
Oh, so, that's a full-time plus job building community. Yeah. My guys that work for Monty Cook Games, they run the Cypher Unlimited Discord, and that was like just fan base, and then they turn into the official. But managing and making a community valuable is an extremely overlooked aspect of building a brand, and she has done something amazing with it. And she's been good about giving her baby out to everybody else instead of just going, it's mine, and gave us a party license that we can use and everything else. I agree. I mean, it's why I'm designing under it right now as well.
Yep.
But you designed a big book though. This wasn't small.
Well, so that's where you get to it, where I got all these worlds I want to do, and I was like, well, you need to have a way to travel between worlds. So I start making it, and there's that thing where you look at the other ones out there, and every time I look at something, I'd be like, well, I don't want mine to have this hole in it. Because that was a lot of the problem. You try to do something when you'd be like, oh, what do I do when I need to have a chase scene with pirates? Which I guarantee you will come up.
Or the law.
And the answer is, and the book will say nothing, and then you're improving everything.
Yeah,
and it's like, on the one hand, I can do that. On the other hand, this should support me. So the book kept going, okay, what do you do when this happens? And that's where you get things like, the big one that I'll give as the example that I did a ton of work on was, I was looking at this, okay, I need random encounter tables. I need random tables. If you look up random events for space adventures online, what you'll get is a list of, you run into an asteroid belt.
Yep.
And there's an alien on your ship.
Asteroid belt, some phenomenon, engine quits, no oxygen, all the tropes from movies.
But there's not actually much variety. 90% of all the terrain they have is asteroids. Yep. So I invented terrain. So like part of the, like, why is the physics weird? Why are stars crystals? What's this? And it's like, it's so, like, if you open up the book and you go to like page 170 or 80 or something.
Yeah, here, let's take us over to that. We'll do that.
Yeah.
Hold on here. I have us set up for that. So what page you want me on?
Let's see. 176, I guess. That's a good one.
176.
Like a couple after that.
Sure. All right. 176. Make sure this is up on screen for us as well. Let me get the PDF up. So the clear aether terrain, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
So like this is basically like weather. Like, you know, you're sailing your ship. Like if you were doing an encounter table in a forest, you don't have to give the GM a ton of tools because the GM says, oh, this is too boring. I'll add a rainstorm because rain exists. You go up into outer space and GM says, oh, they're fighting pirates, but I need variety. What do I add? Well, this is your answer. You've got a cloud of thick clumping dust, a massive fractured star fountaining shards of crystal, a dead patch and then if you go to like the next few pages, you'll see like, I give you a description of each of them.
Like breakdown of like how to use them,
descriptions.
What they are.
Yeah, and these are, because it's this weird thing, I have way more intense descriptions. Like, once again, if I said a random table that had rainstorm, I wouldn't give you 2 paragraphs of what rain is.
No, but if you're doing a massive fractured star fountaining shards of crystal, it needs a little bit more explanation.
Yeah, so on the one, so that's where you get to this book being big, because if you go like, I think there's just random tables and descriptions of stuff for the next 30 pages.
Yeah, and I have some stuff highlighted. Like you even went into like civilized clear aether areas and what those are, and you give D100 tables, which by the way, D100 tables are not easy to build. Everyone thinks they are, and then they get around 60 and they go, oh, what am I gonna put now? It gets weird, and especially weighting them and making them look good. Also, there is no program that really handles tables well enough for you to like, I need to weight my tables accordingly. You're just manually going back through and like reweighting them and moving numbers and doing all that. So you can try Excel.
I did these like the Aetherdark, so these are only D50 with no weighting. It's 1-to-1. But
yeah.
So it's the lazy way out. But on the other hand, these are the inspiration tables. These are not like you need a weighted table in Adventure where you're like, this monster attacks and the DM is locked in. This is you do you sort of. This is like, hey, oh, that might inspire an event. It's not the event in its entirety.
Yeah.
But this is sort of like, this is the stuff where I would look at what was out there and say, I don't think there's enough. If somebody runs into this problem, I did this a lot of times. I would get to a point where I'd say, if I need to do X, what do I do? And the answer, step one, is always search Reddit and search Google.
Find what's been done.
Reddit and Google, if that did not give me the answer, I said I have to put this in the book.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. If you can't search somewhere to find it, you need actual answers. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
So you did that for everything, though. I
tried to. I mean, there's that. This is where I keep saying, like, people are like, oh, when's it going to come out? It's like, well, it's got to have over the summer to get feedback.
Yeah.
Because so far, I've only done that for stuff I ran into, I DM'd.
Sure.
Well,
yeah, and you're not trying to develop in a silo or a void. You're wanting to get other people to look at it,
Yeah,
100%.
But I'm right now a new creator, so I don't have a huge stable of people I'm pulling from. So to this point, it's built to the extent of what I can hit.
Finding enough people to play test a product, no matter how large you are, like from my time in the video game industry, isn't easy ever. It's just not. Getting a test audience, there's a lot, like, if you pay them, are they going to give you honest feedback? If you don't pay them, are they even going to do it? Like, there's a lot. Really, you need passionate people who love your project, and they give you the truest answers. That's kind of been my experience in all the industries where we've had to have feedback for stuff. Even in automotive, it was like, oh no, it's great. But it's like, it's not. Like, you got a gap that's wrong. This doesn't work. That you have to have some truth in it. So you put the Kickstarter together. You got 5 days left. You're already 24,000. Congrats, by the way. You funded quick. This is your third Kickstarter, right?
Third Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other two.
You were giving away
they were
a lot of shit in this one, man. I don't think people understand how much product is actually in this. So you gave me the private Google Drive of everything. There is a lot of stuff here. Like you're putting out a person's 5-year work if they work and put something out every couple of months. Like there's a lot of shit in here.
It's trying to be a lot. And I want to give people perspective on where it's going. So I'm going to post an update on Kickstarter soon, but I'm a mess. So who knows when that'll happen. But so like if you go through that, there's the travel logs, the fiction zines. I don't know if you looked at them. I wanted that. That's where I started. Like I said, I'm a writer. I wanted to make a world. I start by writing a story in the world, and then I know how the world works. And I meant for those to be that utility. But also, if you go through those, you'll be like, oh, there's a lot of fantasy worlds in these. There's going to be adventure zines for all of those. A lot of those are like 70 to 80% done. Initially, there was going to be a lot in this Kickstarter, and I looked, I was like, if I put these in, I could get them done, but the question is, could I get them play tested by release? And the answer was no. So I gotta push them.
Little secret for you: most adventures aren't play tested.
I know that,
even from
but
major
that doesn't mean
publishers.
I'm willing to release that.
I'm just telling you.
They can. I know that they do that, and that doesn't mean I'm gonna do that. But. And that's where I was like, you did a
campaign setting too, though. Like, it's 150 book. That's what I was excited about. I think that's really missing from the Aetherdark ecosystem right now is settings. There's not a lot of settings. That's why I did Breachers, because I was like, man, I really want a setting that's different, that gives something different, because you don't see a lot. And then when Dark Space came out, I really want a setting from them. Like, I know they wanted to catch all to start, but I want settings, and I don't want just traditional fantasy settings. I want some new stuff. So seeing this was awesome. I was super excited because, again, we got boned on the last one. And you're also putting out the zines that are like the fiction, almost like comics. Like they're short stories. But the thing that hit me the hardest when I was going through all of it was the maps for system, planet, and section, like a city. Such a genius peel away from maps. Did you see that somewhere, or was that just
I don't know.
I need it all on one goddamn page.
I think that it was a mix. So if you went to the zine, so I had sort of thought it through a bit, and I started talking about that. And then I think if you go to the zines, like the ones I sent you, the second one or the third, I think it's the third one. The artist that I hired for the maps for that did something kind of similar, and it was like my feedback, but then he went that direction. I was like, oh, I can condense this onto one page and sort of really bring it in.
Let me see if I have that pulled up. The third one you said?
It is different. Yeah, it should be Moons of Vargion.
Let me make sure that I'm not sharing the link for this while we're talking. So, like, it's very different, though.
That one's actually publicly shared. You could find that through links
the folder.
On the
I meant the folder
page. Yeah.
What is
fair enough.
Which one? Is it the Breath of the Moon?
Moons of Vargion.
Moons of Vargion. Okay, cool. No, I just wanted to be able to pull it up separately here.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
So here we go. Oh yeah, this one. So this.
If you look at front and back, it's got this map, and it's a bit different. But that was when I saw that. I was like, I started thinking, could I get this onto one page? And that's like when you talk about like hiring an artist versus like using AI or something. It's like I get so much good work out of artists.
You do
things that I wouldn't have been able to make. Where you see like, okay, it's got the close in on the one thing, and if you go to the very back, you'll see like, oh, here's the system, and that does a bit because this one is the weird moon setup, which was important, so it's unique to this one. But that sort of, and I was like, okay, can I break this down into one page? And I think it worked pretty well.
You had it. It's in the core book too, though. Where's the one in the core book so I can showcase that? Do you know offhand what page?
Oh yeah, I added that like 200-ish.
Well, while you're looking for that, I love that. I didn't even realize that these were all in color originally.
So the ones in the interior cover of the zines are in color.
Oh, okay.
Because for printing costs reason, the cover of a zine can be color at basically free.
Pretty close.
If you do internal and color, you're killing yourself.
Yeah.
It's page 157.
157, all right. So I want to look at this because this is one of those things that remind me of being a kid and drawing. Like when I was playing D6 Star Wars way back in the day, I remember drawing the planet and getting things ready and trying to figure out how I showcase everything and drawing on separate pages. But this is pretty genius. And granted, it's a system, a continent, and then the delta or a zoom in on the most important area. And it's so simple. It's comic book panels.
Yeah. So you say going back to being a kid, that was that. So if you look at when I have the maps and I explain how to do all the maps, I wanted the design. What I described as my 12-year-old in the basement standard is when I was 12-year-olds in my basement and I saw an adventure, I immediately thought I could do that, and then I made one. Yeah. And I want people to look at the ship maps in this and say, I bet I could make one of those, and then do so.
Yeah, and this even like this breakdown was great. And you have tons of ship maps in here and things like that as well. It is definitely made so that you have a toolbox to run a space game, an Astral Sea game. Yeah. And you don't need to know the whole book. That's what I was telling people when I was reviewing it. It's like, this is a toolbox with like 20 to 30 pages of rules. Learn that. You have great cheat sheets in the front, and it kind of builds this all out. So when we were talking about doing the design aspect of what we're going to do, you said you liked the crew tables that you were building out, which you said was kind of unique.
The crew events. That's what it was. If you go to like page 20 or something, I'm going to talk about. I love this. Is all right. You're a designer. Yeah. You've brought stuff to a table. Yeah. And you know there's this breakdown of like, I would say 90% of the time, if I make something and then I play it with my table. So these are, this is page 24 to 27.
Already got it pulled up.
Events. All right. This is if you bring something to the table, 90% of the time your players go, oh, that was fun, and they liked it.
Yeah.
And then about like 8 or 9% of the time they go, I don't know, it didn't quite work.
Yep.
But then like 1% of the time, you have an idea that you think, this is pretty good, and then after the session, your players message you and go, that was the best thing ever. And
Yep.
the crew events were something like that, where every single player was like, wow, this is really good, man.
So how would you explain crew events? What are they?
They are you shift focus away from the player characters and have the players run events as the crew. And you get to have secondary events alongside the main adventure. So let's say we're running a game right now. You just cleared a dungeon and you're about to head home. And then I say, okay, you're on your way back. While you were gone, back at the ship, the mayor of the town that the ship was docked at came out and is saying that there are some children ran away and they think they're hidden on board the ship. And I need you to figure out what the crew is going to do. And then the players, so we're in the crew sheet. This is leaning on the way Aetherdark does stuff. So every member of the crew, they don't have stats. They use the default crew stats. The crew acts as the crew and there is a stat block. But they each have a name, an ancestry, and a background. So you're sitting there and you can be like, oh, they're doing this. Well, we got to make sure we're not in trouble, so we should be searching our ship, but we don't want to let them on board, so we need to delay them. Okay, this guy's a mayor. He'll get advantage on a check to delay the mayor. You could role play it.
Sure.
We set these guys to searching the ship, and then somebody else is like, oh, we need to figure out who these people are. This character could go in and talk to merchants in the town square, and you're getting all the players are playing as one or more, because these are light, quick characters, and they play as a few characters. And
like groups of people going out to accomplish a goal.
Yeah, and you can play as 3 characters at once, you can play as one, and the result of this is, first off, all of the named characters in the crew, which is the whole crew, become real people to the players because they played as them. So in the next adventure, when there's a battle on the deck and you stab one of those guys, it matters a lot more. It's not crew member 14, it's John the mayor who just got stabbed. And the other thing it does, which is really important for campaigns, is it makes the world persistent.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have invested interest at the people who make your ship run. A lot of people think, oh, I have a ship, it's 2 people. It's like, nah, it's more than 2 people to make these run, especially the larger your ship gets. I don't care what type of automation through magic you have, it still takes bodies, especially repairing a ship. So, I mean, that's awesome. You have these kind of crew events. They almost remind me of like a non-XP carousing table, almost. It's not quite carousing. Like, you're going to use them for action. It's like having a network of people to get things done so your player characters don't have to do it all.
Yeah.
And people forget that. Like, I've had a group that had an entire battalion with knights in like an old, I think this is a Birthright or Dragonlance. They kept forgetting they had all these people who could go do stuff for them. So this is a really good way to do that. And crews work together or they die together.
Yeah. Yeah, the crew matters. It comes up a lot. I wanted it to be important. I wanted it, well, like you said, you have a lot of people on a ship. That was one of my biggest complaints with Spelljammer was it has the helm and it's like, oh, how does a ship fly? I choose to have it fly. And it's like, okay, so it's a one-man ship?
I mean, it just makes the red line travel. It's Indiana Jones. You pay him back, you see the travel, you get there, maybe there's a random event, which is cool. If that's the style, you with cinematic travel, I don't mind that in games. I don't think you should be stopping for everything, but you've made hex crawl in space, so this works really well for that. And I see you got like a D100 table, which I have pulled up right now, which is really a D50. Kind of a breakdown of the different things. There are crew events at port as well, so who knows what happens when they're at port. Also great lead in for rumors. It also gives you a really good thing to put on the back of a book for adventures that come out and things like that. So really, really awesome. The crew thing is probably my favorite part. The maps and the crew for like mapping things out, those really caught my eye. So with that, let's talk about what I kind of wanted to build today. You've got a lot in here. I have the cover up right now on the book. You also went with no name on the cover of your book.
Yeah, I'm going, it's to fit in with Shadow Dark. That's the style. It's a style I've always liked, and they're going with it. I'm like, yeah, I'll match that. So
I'm fine with that. I ain't nothing wrong with that. I believe in iconic design a lot. So like having just the art on it's pretty dope. Are you?
It does. It helps a lot that Jerry did such a good job on this. Where
this is great.
Was saying, I was like, I need a cover, and I reached out to her, and I was like, okay, I've got this idea of like a kraken coming through the wall of the ship. I don't know. Can you make that work?
Yeah, it's great because it's the portal with the mouth and like everything's coming through it. Like the more you look at it, the layers kind of unpeel in the art piece. I really am a big fan of it. I think it looks great. It would be great on a shirt.
Like, there's a lot of other covers I could have gotten, which maybe I would have put a name on it. But this, I think this stands alone. I'd rather have it alone and leave it, give it space.
Yeah, let it breathe. Let it breathe. Yeah, I agree. I think it's great. So I'm going to move us over to, I do actually, before we go into doing design work, there is something I wanted to go over in the Kickstarter here real quick. So you have a bunch of different levels. The all digital's 20. That gives them the book, the ring, the first campaign, which is like 64, 67 pages if memory serves. Then they also get all the 12 fiction zines. That's just the PDF. 50 gets you core plus all the PDFs. 90 gets you the travel logs and PDFs. So not the core book. That's like, I want all the zine styles instead. And then you have...
Yeah, I didn't expect many to watch that, but if you wanted the setting but didn't want the rules, that's the one.
Yeah, it's easier to put it in that way. You have a 90, which is rule setting and PDFs, and then 160 for all in. And I mean, I don't know where you're getting this printed at to be able to do this at those prices, but good luck.
I got quotes before. I got estimates beforehand, so we'll hope that the estimates were right.
You're going through Mix'em or Print Ninja?
It was through Mix'em, and it was like a week after the tariffs started. So
you hope your Kickstarter ends.
Like,
tariffs go back down.
I do have a tariff estimate.
Yeah.
I am somewhat worried that they were not accurate, but I think they were, and I will figure it out either. Like, this will work out somehow. If they were wrong, then it'll cut into my margins, but it won't. It won't go negative.
After interviewing a bunch of people, what I found they're doing is a lot of people are waiting for print for tariffs, but Mix'em does print US. There is one in Wisconsin here where I live. There is one in Chicago, and then there's West Coast as well. They all do different divisions. So Mix'em's great. I mean, I think their quality's good. They make good stuff. Their print times are fairly fast. Larger print runs, not so much. But I was surprised. I saw this and just, this is a good library to be like, you want to play Aetherdark, you want to play Spelljammer in Dark, here you go. Here's how you do it. This is everything you need. All the fiction, everything you need. So
well, and the goal is that you give this, when this is like a year from now, I've done the follow-up zines, you'll have something where you can say, here's a micro setting zine with 1 to 2 adventures for each setting with an additional 9 worlds. So you have places to explore too, because I want you to have places to go. That's one of the hard things in Spelljammer. Once again, I said, oh, they have 3 medieval European settings. What are we doing here? I want you to have places to go.
Are you also making a room for growth so the GM can add their own planets and stuff like that as well? Like, it's space, essentially, astral space. It's space. There's infinite space. In the core setting book, there's a lot of undefined planets. I define the core worlds. But this is an Age of Sail setting in a lot of ways, and I include a lot of the bad with that. So this is the age of like colonial expansion. So they have colonies, and I don't define the colonies very much. I say like this. There is one here.
There is one here. There is one there. But I don't say what's there. I say like you do what you need in your game, and because I do want it to be a sandbox, and to me that makes sure that there's a lot of space for GMs to expand. So the parts I really defined at all were the core 7 worlds of the ring.
Do you have anyone doing a live show for you for this yet, or streaming it at all yet?
I do not.
You should find someone to do like a short series of 4 or however long the syndicate would take to do, because I think the rules in action need to be seen. Like, as me as a designer.
I'm working on getting there. I'm at least gonna do up. I've done some videos before. I'm gonna try to do a like.
Or just go find someone else to make it that does it.
Live play.
Like, it might be even better to do it that way, because then you're also seeing if your product works. as a designer.
Yep,
Like that's the thing. Like, does
if
my
that,
shit
if that
work?
works out, I'm going there. if there's somebody in the chat who says I'd love to do a live show, ping me.
I mean, I know enough
hey.
people in the industry. There's a chance that there is somebody.
Yep.
So I know I want to do some design work with you here. I put a good layout together really quick. I try to kind of match and blend our two styles together, keeping the look and having some of the corpse talks kind of the umbrella, but there's a lot of stuff that gets developed under it. So let me bring that back up for the audience. And we talked in the background about making a boarding action. And you had a couple questions, and we had some audience members here as well. I like the idea of boarding another ship and just starting it in it and letting them make the decision of, are they doing it stealthily, politically, based on the party that's playing. Because to me, we're kind of building a plug-and-play piece. So, you know, if they want to do it by combat and ram a ship and turn it and all hell breaks loose, that's kind of the player's decision. But if you got 3 bards in that party and they all want to talk their way onto the ship to find out what's going on, you give them the social pieces. So I'm fine with whatever. If you got ideas for it, you know Aetherdark obviously better than I'm going to know it. I ran a lot of Spelljammer and space games, and that's kind of where I'm going to be coming from this.
Yeah, I'll say the big question I have is, what's the hook for the players? Because you're usually, if you're doing a one-shot, you start out at boarding. But if you're doing this in the middle of a campaign, you say, oh, your ship's sailing through. You see a ship in the distance. It's pretty far off. Why do they want to board it? We got to have something they're going to see on this ship that goes, oh, I want to go there.
So hooks is what we're looking at. So let's scroll down to introduction. Yeah. I'm going to do, we're out of these pages in the flow of content. Do you think, like, we have our opening map or whatever, if we need a map there. If not, we'll just replace that with something else. An encounter table, because we need a spot that, you know, we've already been trained as Shadow Dark players to look for that. I have a blank there for either an ad page or if we need a filler to make that even number pages for a zine. Licensing material and information can go there. Introduction to me is like, this is what it is. Do we want the hook in intro? Do we want it in how to use as we teach the GM how to plug this into their game?
So my structure, I would put the hooks first, or, well, I would do either the hooks first or a what's actually happening first. If we can break down a one paragraph, this is what's happening, I always start with that for the GM. But
so this paragraph
we don't know
here,
what's happening yet. We have to have the hooks. So I would be like, yeah, that first paragraph.
So what's happening? And I'm going to do this.
What's happening?
I'm just going to put this in place, leave the ipsum there so we got a spacer, and we know we're going to come back and fill that in. Do we want heading 2 to be hooks, or do we want hooks over on the right-hand side?
I think I always see my style. I try to be as clear with what it is. So heading 2 would be, why should players board this ship or something like that. But
put it. You can type here as well.
Yeah, hooks. Well, I don't know where the headings are in separate things, so I'm not sure how that inserts in these.
I just have a main heading for the introduction, and then I followed the bold status there. So heading 2, just type where it is, and you're good to go.
Heading 2.
Yep. There you go. And then we can go below that.
That's where we want to have
bullet points.
We got to get some reasons. So, yeah, let's. I don't know where bullets are.
Oh, here, watch. So, just go like this. Bullets. No, you don't even have to. You can just hit like markdown.
Oh,
so if you delete it, you can just go like that. No, just the dash. And then we can pull whatever we want. So we go like this.
Okay, so let's see. What are some good reasons here? So you see a ship now. We could be saving. So obviously, if you have players that want to be pirates, they'll attack something that's vulnerable. But we got to assume most players aren't just attacking murder hobo style.
Chasing a target could not be. It could be anyone, like a kidnapper. It could be chasing someone from your campaign.
So if you see a pirate chasing another ship, so you want to interfere with the pirate.
Or if it's just your campaign and you're already in the middle of whatever it is and you've been chasing.
Oh yeah, so you're like, you know this ship. You reckon we
chasing
could just have
known
a bounty
ship
on this ship.
Bounty? Chasing known ship or bounty. So there's one.
Yeah, that works. We could also have something weird on the ship.
Sure.
So, like, if you see it and you're like, hey, you see a ship and there looks to be some aurora circling around it like a magical doodad,
Is there
Maybe that
scanners
develops
or anything
interest.
like that for like long range in Aether?
There is not. That's why. So when I talk about the weird physics, the shifting scale, nothing ever is that far off.
Oh, okay.
So when as you get further from a planet, things get closer together. So like you're on a planet, everything looks the way it is because the world's bigger.
Right.
When you leave the atmosphere, everything sort of shrinks down.
That's
you're
what
further
happens
from
too.
reality.
Yeah, it's perspective also shifts as you get away from things
it does,
too.
But I'm doing it where it's like this is actually like literally so the
Are you leaving like
ether-
a pocket domain?
So the way I write it up, the ether out
Mm-hmm.
in the astral sea, that the stuff that is ether is like the fundamental bits of chaos that eventually form realities. So as you're going
Oh.
around, that's why they'll have weird effects, because like when you go through a nebula, they'll have icebergs and things because people are flying through them and people think about icebergs and they're just like picking up bits. So ether is just like potential reality. It's just raw chaos.
Gotcha.
But as
So
it forms an actual reality, it sort of stretches. So you get a full world, then you go up into the planets, and the planets
see.
are only like 10, 20 miles between a planet.
Right.
You go out into the stars, it's 10, 15 miles between stars, and you're just sailing along.
Because it's
So
the
distances
astral
aren't that
sea.
large.
Physics doesn't
Yeah.
fucking matter. It's magic. Like
It's different physics, and I explain the physics kind of, but I say at the start of the
Mizzix?
physics
Is it
thing-
Mizzix? Is it magic physics? Is it Mizzix?
Yes, it is magic physics. But I say at the start of it, I was like, you don't need to read this if you want to just say it works like pulp sci-fi, because this is all fancy rules to make it feel like pulp sci-fi.
Sure.
When somebody flies into a solar system in a pulp science fiction thing, what do they see? They see all the planets.
Right.
What's actual physics say? The angle on those planets, you can't see any planet. They're so far away, they're indistinguishable from stars. So, yeah, like.
Recover crew or an NPC friend?
Oh yeah, they kidnap. So if they've kidnapped someone, that's a good reason to board instead of fire on them, because you don't want to hurt your guy.
Recover a crew. I should put a crew member. Or NPC friend. Let's see here.
That is an interesting one where that can make this a follow-up that GMs can use, because you're always looking for utility for a GM.
So what would we label that to like teach them? So obviously below this boarding here, like let me bump this down. We could delete this and we can put a key here that's like follow-up starting session, like where you would place hooks. And then we can tag them afterwards to help a GM on where to put them. And then this here is just an art piece. So I will do this.
I do when to use this. And then I say like this. Oh, that's still bolded. So
that's okay. Just Control B and it'll get rid of it.
I think it's a heading. I don't know. Whatever. You can fix it later.
Well, here. Watch. You just highlight it and unbold it. That's all it is.
No, I don't bold that. I don't know. It is definitely fine. So like, yeah, you have the subheading when to use this, and then you'd be like, this encounter is best used after a crew member has been kidnapped.
Yeah, kidnapped or captured or whatever, or ransomed.
Yeah, and you're just saying like, this is sort of like why would you use this? And it's like, well, this if you're sitting there and you did some encounter and you're like, oh, the thing that makes sense is somebody get kidnapped. What do I do next? It's like, well, you can just run this. Yeah. This is for after somebody gets kidnapped.
Yeah.
I
mean, and you can even give them more than like. So if we give them 4, I would say 3. I like to give 3 hooks. You get too much, you get analysis paralysis. So something weird. This kind of becomes exploration, right? Because you're exploring something. Let's just delete this one, and this one we could be. So recovering a crew should be follow-up adventure, and then we delete these, for example, and then chasing a known ship or bounty. Obviously, this is a bounty mission.
Yes.
And then we can highlight these and recolor them to make them stand out. Once you get everything done, I usually go back and give it kind of like a trade dress once over. But when to use this? So you're giving them the encounter version. We probably should do this. It should probably be exploration, follow-up, just so we have a description. And we can move this, obviously. And we can tell them...
We probably don't need the win to use this header, being as we're doing that in the hooks. This is I'm just sort of like mixing in my style. And
so
we don't need to duplicate. So.
Watch, just do this. We'll go like this. Yep. We'll go like this.
I think we got it enough in there.
And we'll go like that. And then I will make a header piece for this that kind of fits in between, so it does do a call out. Or we can bump it in, like whatever we want to do for it later. But as long as you know when to use this, which is important because a lot of times this shit isn't going to get explained. In a lot of adventures, they just expect you to figure it out on your own. But I think a little short, concise explanation is great. So we know follow-up bounty, and all I'm going to put here while you're typing that, because we can both work in this at once. I'm going to put just put explanation, and we'll put an explanation here later on. Then I don't know about you as a designer, but I work in the program. Like I'll write the original one up, but I work in the program more now than ever before, just because I'm worried about space.
That is, I do the exact same. You have to know that you're not overrunning pages.
Yeah. So we'll just do this. I'm gonna cut this. Oops, I didn't do that. That was fucking.
It's also a discipline thing. It'll teach you, like, for everybody out there that's wondering about design. Teach yourself that it's not saying like, oh, did I fit into a page? If you didn't fit into a page, it's not that you need 2 pages. It's that you were wrong. If it doesn't fit into a page, it's too long for the GM.
You got it. 2-page spread.
2-page spread, very rarely.
Yeah. Container design. You know, you want the panel design, control panel feel, so they can have the book over in front of them. So we have that. What do we want to call this section for the heading?
I didn't even think about that.
Do we have any? Now we come back to it later.
Yeah, let's come back to that later.
So we have this as kind of like what's happening. We have what the players are boarding. We're telling them there's 3 ways to use this: an exploration version, a follow-up version, or a bounty version. Something weird. We can even fill this out at the spaces there. Like we can have something weird, or a derelict ship is an exploration version. We could do recover a crew member or an NPC. That kind of gives them 2 options. And then chasing a known ship or a bounty kind of gives them 2 options for the 3 different modes they can use this hook. We'll leave this for beginning explanation. To me, I kind of see this being used to like help describe the different sections coming up in the introduction. So you can tell them like, here's your sections, here's how you use them, and maybe even key to reference pages in the core book if we need them for something.
We're probably one of the things that comes up when you're playing in Aetherdark, because we're using ships and then also on ship actions, you've got separate phases in a way that you don't with a dungeon. So we're probably going to want to say like, page this is handles while they're approaching the ship and has the details on that. Page this is for like once they're boarding the ship. And page this, we're probably going to want to dedicate a page that's like, this is the actual enemies on the ship, so that they.
Yeah, and if I pan back out to the full version here, we have a how to use, so we can fill it out. I have a crash timer there because I just had an idea for something, but we can turn that into whatever. I have a boarding table that I have a fun idea for, and then we have a monsters section. Right now, it's set up to be an 8-page print. If we bump it, we have to do 2 pages, which is not hard. It's just how zines work. You just add 2 more into it. And then everything afterwards is just in case we have ideas, but we don't know where they go, that brainstorm section. We can just throw shit there as we go. And then the assets is if we find assets we want to use, we can drop them there. At any point in time, you can just duplicate a page by clicking it, hitting Control-D, or right-clicking it and telling it to duplicate it, whatever you want to do. But I put all that stuff after the back cover so we know it's just trash. You know what I mean? Like it's not going in the final. So what do we want to work on first then? Like you talked about in our Discord conversation about needing ship and crew. Do we want a ship in here is like the back stat block on the map area on the back cover? Do we want that in the front? Like where would you put the ship information?
If we're gonna have a map of the ship at some point, I think that's good on an interior or back cover, because that needs to be something you can quick reference.
Okay, I've been really toying with the idea of keeping my zines like the old module styles where the back cover is separate. like this cover is separate, so you can lay it down and still flip through everything and have
Yeah.
the map and stuff in front of you. Obviously, for digital, you just give them the assets to print or do whatever they want with them.
Yeah.
So if it's opened up, I think one side would probably be the map, and maybe the other side's like the crew information.
Yes, that I those are the quick reference you need. You need to be able to look at the stats and details about everybody in the crew.
So
you
let's
need
do
the stats and details of map of the ship.
When you open it up, I think it's pretty to see the map, probably.
Yeah.
So what I've been doing lately with this is I just duplicate. If I'm on the map page right now, I duplicate this, and how I've been telling myself to update shit when I've been doing it lately is I just blow up a big one here that just says update. And I know that I need to put something here so I don't forget, because it's ugly and I will not scroll over it, because let's be honest, we've all done that. So I have that there.
Feel you right there.
Update. We'll put a ship map there, and then what I'm gonna do is I'll go over here and find a ship. Let's just find an ugly ship to put in here. Just so we know we want a ship here. Done. Ugly ship. We know we will not keep that in here. So
yep, there's no way you're scrolling past that.
How are you handling your decks? Like, you have multiple decks on ships, but you don't want to plot all of those out all the time. Do you just do upper and lower and kind of leave it static, like where they're flowing? Do you break them down more? How do you handle like encounters on a ship?
So I actually usually have, there's more decks on a ship than there are actual physical decks, because I also use them as like upgrade slots.
Oh, okay.
And so that means that like the front half of a deck might be a different purpose than the
Fore
back
versus
half.
the aft, yeah.
Yeah, so if we're gonna, it is probably best, and at some point I'll have these tools available, and now my other computer's crashed, so I don't know if I'll have them available even for me right now, but we should just pick a size of a ship and try, and that'll let us know what it is. So
all right,
fundamentally, we're going to do either a sloop, a bark, or a galleon.
So let me pull up the piece. What section should I be going to inside the book for this? Ships in general? Ships or somewhere else?
So the question is, we're intending this to be a most of this is a boarding action, right?
Right, you're boarding another person's ship or another cruise.
So the concern really in a lot of ways is the size of the ship. Also, this is not super high level, so we probably don't want to be, well, it could be a lightly armed galleon, and then it would be...
Or it could have been stolen and stripped down. Maybe they're a fast ship, but they need cargo space.
Yeah.
So I have the ship sizes pulled up right now, which is the dinghy, the sloop, is that a bark? Is that how that's pronounced? B-A-R-Q-U-E,
yes.
A bark?
Yep.
And I see there's crew size, which is 18.
So if you go to page 68, this is the big question I have, which is, so when I did all the maps, all of them are within this range, and this is not entirely random.
Sure.
A sloop is 35-foot tiles.
Oh, okay.
A bark is 150. A galleon is 400. 400 is a large map.
That's a fucking ginormous map. I've been on all these ships. I worked a dock for a long time. I've been on a lot of these kind of ships before. We have a huge salt barge here that comes through to a dock, and that thing is, you're like, we're gonna be walking, just 2 hours long, just so you know. That's what they tell you.
Well, and like, once again, these are more medieval ships, but of course, you think of a galleon. Galleons are, we want this to be big. These ones, so if we wanted this to be a big dungeon crawl, we're talking about a galleon.
Not in 8 pages, we ain't.
A sloop is a 3-room dungeon. A bark is a 5 to 6 room dungeon.
So a bark's probably a better sample of this, I would guess. Because if it's a sloop and it's only a 3-room dungeon, I mean, that's pretty short. How long would that take? How long would the boarding action in this system take? Like boarding, handling combat or social? Like, what's the rough time frame for a 3-room dungeon?
We're probably going to be doing a somewhat custom boarding action, because the standard boarding action, you're just fighting the other crew and their leaders, and it's basically just a battle. And the idea is, so all the stuff in this rule book where I'm like, trust me, this definitely works if you GM like me. So there is a lot of like, how do we get this to the GM is comfortable saying, oh, the enemies are fled below decks. Now I have to improvise. You are going to have to improvise. It is a loose set of rules. The rules are not too strict about this.
I always teach improvisation over strict rules because it will make you a better GM at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Nick said, "What a handsome ship!" By the way, it's not a handsome ship. That bitch was ugly. We also had some comments on like an evil core salvage, evil campaign, trafficking victims. Yep. Raiding ships.
That is the main villain of the campaign in it. That's the syndicate. They're slavers. They're evil. That's why you want to kill them.
Nick also said he's a big council spread advocate. I agree with you, Nick. I agree.
Yes.
I think that I would think that a sloop is probably a good small dungeon, and a bark might not be bad if we like make it like a good in between. Like you said, 5 rooms is a bark, roughly.
Well, like actually, you know what? I got a better. If you skip to page, let's see, let's find one. Let's go to like page 276.
Sample ships.
Is that the right one? Yeah.
This has got the deck with A through F ship on it. Yeah. False merchant.
That is a bark, and then if you go to the next page, the Kakum is a sloop.
Oh, okay, so we could even tell them to use one of these to shorthand it.
Yep.
And then we could change some stats on it if we wanted to make it special. Sloop isn't bad. So what is most? I guess what is most starting party ship? That's probably a really good place to start this at. What would a starting party have?
Campaign I have, you start with a bark. Sloop would make sense in a lot of cases. Probably be a sloop or a bark. A bark. So the advantage of a bark, when you're doing shipboard action, when you're like, oh, we're sailing into battle. If you're a bark, well, a frigate, an armed bark, it has 2 siege attacks, and it has so every ship, you have one person who's doing a check to maneuver in combat, another person's doing a speed check to make it go faster. So like on this
attacking sails, wheel, things like that.
Somebody else attacking sails. 2 people are making those rolls. So that's 2 activities. And then each siege battery is a separate action for a player to fire. Otherwise, your crew can auto fire, but they're probably worse. So a bark has enough actions for 4 people, and if you have more than 4, one person might have to improvise.
Okay.
On the other hand, a sloop only has 1 siege battery, so it's only got enough actions for 3 people.
Yeah, and the 4th one could be like spotting or shooting with their own weapons when they get close enough. What is the rough ranges of weapons in this game? Then? What's a siege's range?
So I went with, this is just the same ranges as Shadowdark. It's close, near, far, and then I added sight. So there's a out of far, but I think most people use that in Shadowdark. I just codified it.
Right. So you're most of the time doing like double near firing when like you're getting into range, or double 60 foot. Like that seems really close.
So to be clear, I did, because I wanted this to be, so we mentioned in the pre-show about like Pirate Borg. Yeah. Pirate Borg is a very heavy tactical in some ways. You are playing out a long tactical combat.
Yeah.
And I would say if you really want that tactical combat, you might want to supplement this with Pirate Borg. Because I did not try to do tactical combat. Now, you can improvise actions as you're going, but it is trying to be fast, streamlined combat. So if you do want to do boarding, you are going to get there quickly.
Okay. So it's more like jockeying for position, getting into boarding space.
So whenever you do, 2 ships, they're at far. You do an opposed speed check. Whoever wins the speed check can choose to keep the distance the same, increase it by 1 category, decrease it by 1 category. Okay. You're at far, then you're at near, then you're at close. That's it.
Do we have them? Should we have them in our adventure? Them already boarding? Just start them in the boarding process and not the chase?
The reason I wouldn't do that is it gets hard to use in a campaign, because then you're leaving the GM to say, why did the players want to board the ship? You can't be partway through a campaign and say, we're starting this adventure with you attacking a ship and you don't remember why.
Well, we've already given them the 3. We gave them the 3 hooks, though. They could. This is more like the GM knows they're chasing them last session. They're going to be going to board. I'm just wondering
if totally be the boarding action. Yeah.
I wonder if we can just cut the reason I'm saying that is we're keeping it concise and short. if we're giving them things that they can do on the deck, social, or I mean, if they want to do a social engagement or they want to do a combat engagement.
That could be a nice condensed, like you're already boarding, this is how you work it out.
Yeah, like here's some new options for boarding, like, or here's how to handle a boarded action. Because I know groups are gonna try to stealth, and this is 3D movement, not a flat plane of an ocean. Because if they can get up underneath and no one sees it, like, that's the weird thing about old naval vessels. You can't fucking see below very easily.
Yeah, you got to keep watch there.
You got to have someone with a crow's nest that sees them on the way in 3D movement. So, like, it does give you the option of being able to stealth in on a ship. Especially if it's a bigger ship. Smaller ships can get up on bigger ships a lot easier, like size-wise, and not be seen. That's why you take take rowboats out to boats and hope you don't get seen. So maybe we can start it in the thick of it and tell the GM, we can make a note like, hey, glass hull, Nick says. They should have glass hulls.
So, glass hull will last really well when you land on rocky ground. And
yeah, oh God. So I think maybe we start at least loosely and within, we start them either, I think we tell the GM, start them in the boarding process or within like far or close. Like we want them in that, in the moment. I think we should definitely make a note on that. So do we want to put that in how to use? For our design process,
we're starting there. Why don't we just start with designing the boarding?
Yeah, I think
Whether or not we start before then, I think we just start out designing that because that will tell us whether or not we want there to be more. Yeah, so like if we're doing boarding and you're saying like, yeah, they should be able to do social, they should be able to do all this, I guess we need to know who the villains on the ship are, right? Like,
yeah, what do we want to do? Like if I had an idea for the table, scrolling and looking down here. I saw your boarding action stuff, like your crew tables. I thought it'd be cool to do a weighted boarding table where I have a D6 because it's just a copy and paste, but a D10 table where it's 1 to 10 is not combat. It lets the players learn what's going on the ship by seeing crew members doing stuff. So, for example, the entire set piece for this, as the GMs, we know they are, what's something rare in Aetherdark that crew would want? Like, what is some, besides gold, like, what is something that people would want? That's like illegal or something along those lines.
I mean, because there's infinite worlds, what's illegal is pretty out
there.
Like,
Okay,
but,
fair.
But no, so there's the question of, like, always the issue with what's saying people would want is, do you make it too valuable? Because a lot of the valuable stuff out in the ether is too valuable, but if we're saying we want to get the jump on these, we could start this saying players already know where these pirates are hiding their take. So you're coming on pirates at where they stash stuff out in the ether. So they'll be like in some field, like in a star field or in a nebula, and they'll be like their equivalent of buried treasure.
Yeah, but you're boarding them already. So, I mean, aren't you want to be on their ship for something. Like, what? Is it because they're delivering something to one of their locations for treasure? Or is it something crazier like, I know you have those ships that use harness stars to move the ship?
Like they could be, like if they were dislodging a star, you'd want that, but that might be too valuable for a
If it's small, what if they're using it for a new weapon or ammo?
Yeah, they so star shard. They could be harvesting star shards from a valuable star. Star shard projectiles are valuable.
Are they rare?
Yeah, they're in the rare upgrades. One of them is star shard lances or something. I can't remember.
Oh, okay.
You like encase them in ceramic and fire them on ballista, and they're the highest damage weapon you can get on a ballista.
So, like, if you can get a few of them for them, it would kind of give the crew some cool ammo to have for, like, later encounters or combat. But it's not too powerful because it, like a potion, it is an expendable resource.
It's consumable. It's gonna get used up. But yeah, it's like 2 to 3 times the damage per shot that you're getting with anything else. So.
Okay, so I think the story then, we're giving the hooks on why they're coming here. But I think what they're unveiling as they're going through this is the real thing these group is doing is they're smuggling star shards to, like, make ammo, and they have some on their ship. So I'm going to put the crew is smuggling star shards, and have a limited supply on this ship, but they do not have the weapons to fire them. That's probably the big thing. Otherwise, this crew would have just blown your ass out of the sky.
Well, I would say catch them while they're harvesting the star shards. They don't.
Oh,
have
while
the
they're
ammo
doing
yet.
it. Oh, okay. Ooh.
You come out, so that's part of the reason I think you'd be easy in a boarding action, because they're distracted.
They're already
at, like,
parked.
The edge of some like shard of a star. They're parked. They're all working, and that. So you were talking about like what are they doing? Well, if you're watching people that they're docked, they're like tied off to a shard of that sheared off the side of a star.
Mm-hmm.
They're like cracking it apart with like special chisels.
Yes.
And things. Like they're all busy. That's when you take somebody by surprise, and they're like, nobody will know we're here because we don't have any deck lights. They're out in the
and less people on the ship patrolling, all that kind of stuff too, depending on when you catch them. So, weighted table, I think it's going to be a D10. I'm just going to put a D10 here, and I'm going to put a plus, and we're going to figure out what the plus is later. I'm assuming you've designed weighted tables before, but yeah, Free League is known for doing really good weighted tables. And the cool thing is 1 to 10 is basically learning what's going on. If you're in combat, we just have a note that says, if in combat, it is plus 10 or plus 8 or whatever out of the gate. Making sure they're in that 11 to 20 climate where shit's getting rough. They've seen you, they're loading guns, like whatever it could be. And anything that is, like when they roll this boarding event, I think everything that is a combat action below is already considered is in action. So for example, if 20 is firing on your ship, let's just say that's what it is.
Yeah.
Anything that would happen 19 and down is stuff that they would be doing. If you roll a 20, they're firing on the ship, that means they're already loading ammo in. These events are to kind of showcase what's going on. Yes, there's a hook, but they're to show what's going on.
Yeah.
So what do we think we want these events to be? I think it's easier to start at the end game, the 20. Like, what happens at 20? I think they're attacking you.
Yeah, 20 is they're attacking.
So,
or if we wanted to go a different direction, we have like 15 be attacking and 20 is fleeing or something.
Oh yeah, we could do that too. Like they see you, they want out.
It depends on what is affecting the weighting.
So I'm thinking it's either actions you've taken or failed rolls. Because we're known in Shadowdark for using a D6.
Yep.
One is encountered stuff every time, and we'll have to decide if this is a dangerous encounter, which I'm assuming coming in, unless you're social. I think if you're in a social environment, you get to start it a little less dangerous. Yep. But if you're coming in hot, it's going to be every round. You're rolling these actions to find out what happens. But we're using a D10 and adding every failed roll or every one that is rolled. Because that's simple. That makes your players, to me, we're taught in Shadowdark to think off of your page more than on it. And anytime a roll is being called, it should be something that is a risk scenario. You should be rolling because it's risky, not because you want knowledge. If you want knowledge, fucking ask your GM what you want to know. Like, hey, I'm looking through this drawer. What do I see? I'm looking for secret doors in this room. The GM should just tell you the secret door is there, because why are you hiding it from a player who's asking in that room, taking valuable time? So for this case, I think my bullet point rules that I would come back and edit are simply every I'd say one on encounter rolls adds to the event boarding event roll. Easy. And I think they add up. And then I think any failed roll from a player adds one, because we want this to escalate quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. And players should be, you got to be doing stuff. So
let's see here. Adds +1 to the table. So now we have a general concept.
Yeah.
And these can kind of be filled out, I think, also as we're making like quick monsters. We can find stat block later. But I think you're right. I think firing on the ship, like firing on the cruise ship, is 15. And we can always move it.
Yeah. Because one of the risks here, remember,
star shards.
They're coming. This is the risk in Shadowdark isn't always you die.
Right.
We're coming here thinking we can steal star shards we can rescue this kidnapped crew member. Them running away is in some ways a bigger risk.
Yeah, because you're losing
If
the
they're
crew
firing
or
on
whatever.
you can still win.
Exactly.
Once they get away, they're gone. You might never find them again. That could permakill that NPC you were trying to save.
Yeah, or you lose the bounty or whatever it is you're trying to do
Yeah.
with your 3 hooks. 100%. So if that's firing, what would 16 be? Would they be boarding you?
Well, then, so are we doing it? Is there a range in which they're just engaging in combat?
So anything, I think 11 to 20 becomes noticed and hostile actions. Anything that is 10 and down is either your social encounter, you're on the ship, you're stealthing. Like, they should be things that are more learning. Like, you see that they have 5 of their 15 crew off mining the shard. And then maybe 2 is there are 3 people below deck getting really padded packaging together, because I'm assuming Star Shard is kind of unstable. I don't know if that's true.
It is dangerous. It's just infinitely sharp, sort of. It's like it's the sharp, most perfect crystal. It is like,
so you have to have the right
stars
packaging,
are
or it's
crystalline
gonna
shards.
It's gonna fuck shit
It
up.
has to be. Yeah, it has to be encased in ceramic, because otherwise it'll just like slice your hands off and things
So
while you're handling it.
So would they have brought probably ceramic packaging with them then, right? Because you wouldn't be making it on the ship.
They would probably have some sort of container to put it in. I don't know. Like yeah, they would have some Star Shard container.
Ceramic lined boxes.
Yeah, that's good.
Ceramic lined boxes marked in red. Is Star Shard red? What color is it?
Stars are pure white crystal.
Okay, marked.
That's why stars are white.
Marked in
stars
white
look white
stars, white star
Yeah.
symbols. Because we want to give them the ability to figure it out on their own,
Yeah.
right? And then a GM note will say storage for Star Shards, and we can come back through. Is Star Shards one word, by the way, or 2?
I don't know how I wrote it consistently.
Okay, we'll put it as 1 for now.
It is a hyphenate in at least one case here. So 2 words.
I'll say storage.
That's the, you've been working on for so long, you've probably written it a dozen different ways.
Oh, dude, it's the worst. It is the worst. Do you keep your tables the same point fonts, or do you shrink them down?
I keep them the same point, but I sometimes adjust the kerning and tracking to make them fit.
It gets hard to fit. Like, I always want everything to be one line, and it gets really hard sometimes to do it. It really does.
That's always in revision. Like, the first draft, everything's over, and then I'm like, okay, how do I rephrase this?
I just start chopping words. Like, ceramic boxes marked in white stars, storage for Star Shards. Oh, look, that fits. Problem solved.
They're
like,
no
that's
longer
the stuff I
lined.
do.
Problem solved.
Yeah, problem solved.
So I figure also they're handling dangerous materials. They're probably all wearing, all the people handling are wearing heavy duty stuff. So somewhere like 8 or 9,
heavy armor
changing out. Well, they'd be wearing heavy, thick canvas layers and things that are impossible to fight in.
Oh,
so they'd be changing. Think of this hazmat suits, and they're like, oh shit, we got to go into battle. They got to get out of the
chainmail? Like, what would they wear to handle that
probably
stuff?
Chainmail gloves and stuff like that.
Thick chainmail gloves?
Yeah.
So would they be putting them on? Is this is 9 us telling them what they're wearing, or is this changing out of it?
No, 9 would be them changing out of it, because you can't fight them. So I would say start out with give players an advantage if they get an early surprise. Have half the people on deck are wearing gloves that they can't fight in.
So let's say 3.
They're handling Star Shards.
Half the crew are in heavy gear. Disadvantage on combat actions.
Yeah. I think that's that'll add some. That's something that players can use. That's what I want.
Yeah, exactly. Half the crew, because you did well. You got in earlier. So half the crew are in heavy Star Shard gear. Disadvantage on, I'll say, attack. So we'll make it really strength rolls. Strength and dex. Yeah. Strength and dex.
Yeah,
it's probably
dex.
All right, done. Because that will also encompass your attack rolls as well.
Yeah.
We need 20 boxes to carry, or just easy 5 Star Shard. What is that? 5 Star Shard, too small amount. Oh, you want boxes for them to carry it? I mean, well, they can find it. It's on the ship already. So if we got half, they're getting ready. I think one. What if one is a speech on the deck, like the captain telling the crew what they're doing? That means everyone's on the top deck, and it gives them a chance to come in on the lower deck.
Yeah, that works.
Because it gives them a good chance.
Prepping. And it makes sense, like you say, this is the point where they haven't really started doing anything.
Right. So, like, if we were to...
They're prepping.
Yeah, so if I were to do this the way I normally would, let me go up here. I'm going to grab a heading. We're going to cut this. And then what I have been doing in my tables, I do like this. I will turn this black.
Yep.
And we'll go like this. We'll turn it 90, and then we put it next to the chart area, like up to where it is. And I'll do arrows and stuff once it's done. But we know this is non-combat section.
Yeah.
And then down here, and sometimes I'll color code it, depending, like I'll switch the table to black with white text for when it gets dangerous or something along those lines. And then these are combat. Actions, and then we just kind of label it here, and you know it starts at 11 and goes up and it gets worse. So this gives us a nice little piece to work with, and we can fuck with the flow later. What else will we want on here? Like, what are some things we can leave some blank, obviously for later, but let's get the kind of turning point areas in. We know 9 they're changing out of their crew. 10 is the last chance to not, have them ready. Yeah. Is this them coming back to the ship at 10?
But I'm thinking of I think that, like, if we could maybe push it a bit past that, but also, like,
sure,
give them what was I gonna say? Okay, I lost my train of thought for a second there. Totally derailed. No, you sometimes want to have something that tempts players into taking more risk, and have, as these are escalating, more star shards successfully mined. So if like at 5 they have 4 star shards worth mined, and then at like 7 it's like 10, and it's like, do you want to wait longer and let them get ready, or do you want to stop them now?
What if the star shards gathered are equal to the amount of ones and failed rolls? So if you failed 3 rolls and you've rolled 3 encounters, that's 5 shards that have made it back, kind of like a passage of time? Or do we want to do a timer?
I guess more of a timer. So what I was thinking is, so I see this kind of like, there's a reason for players to like try to finish early, but a timer is good because what you want is you want players to be like tempted to risk waiting too long, because they're like, these have some specialists that know how to mine these shards. So you can't. It's like, well, if we wait until they got like 15 or 20, that's great.
Do we get 15 to 20 animals?
But the longer you wait, the more ready they're going to be.
Yeah, because they are out of their gear and stuff like that. It starts getting worse. So, how do we show that on the chart easily? We could put another column, but we run into space issues then. But it wouldn't be a very big third column. We could just add another column to the right, like this, and make it really small.
Wait, if it's just is it just, so it's just going to be what, anything past 10 they're definitely in combat, so
they're ready to fight, right? They're ready to fight at that point. They could still be mining, like one of them could be full crew is back on the ship, like that could be like 14.
Can we just put above this table the final non-combat result times is how many star shard ammo they harvested?
Absolutely. Yeah, if you got an idea for, we can always modify that, add it in. And I'll move this down some so we can have a little more space for typing up there. That's why I put that there, because you always need like table explanations to teach people how to use them. And I think, what do you think, 14 or 13, are they back at the ship? Kind of thinking 13, full crew back.
Yeah, that seems good.
Well, no, 9 we have, we have 9 changing out of gear.
Yes, well, we could move that up.
Yeah, it's kind of what I'm thinking. I think we take that and move it to like 7. And then we move this to crew moving to their stations to leave, because that's like prepping them to leave the zone. And is stations what you call them? What do you call them in Aetherdark? Like positions on the ship?
I mean, that's fine. That's fine. Like
Stations
whatever
on
works
ship.
for you. And
No, we want to use.
I would probably use station. Well, I might use stations sometimes. I might use others. Like that's
okay.
purely fiction. You know what I
Gotcha.
mean? Like
Stations on the ship to depart. Because that means now at 9, they're like, fuck, we have to get on the ship. Now it's forcing action.
yeah.
Because if they want whatever's on there, whatever their hook was to start, you don't want this thing. You don't want to go in a chase. And then I think 11 should probably be them, a scout taking notice of the ship. I think that's 11. Like someone notices their ship there. If they haven't been noticed yet.
Yeah.
Crow's Nest or whatever it is, spots it, yeah. But then I'll just Grammarly this whole thing when we're done to kind of give us a good editing pass. Yeah, spots player ship, exactly. And then alarm is 12. Do they start fucking? What is your alarms on your ships? How do you guys do it? Is it someone just yelling? Is it bells?
Usually just yelling. I mean, this is
Okay.
a sloop. How big is it? You wouldn't have much. I mean, some might, but these are just pirates.
Do we do
probably.
alarm raised 1d4 rounds? Till attack.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems good.
Attack
Or
slash
if
flee.
Yeah.
Attack slash flee. Okay. So that gives us an idea of like timing, and that's kind of cool because if it's a 4, they start firing because they're either firing next to them or they're making distance and firing to get out,
Yeah.
and they're going to use star shards because I mean shit, you would
let 'em
fire
gather
a couple shots.
Yeah, you let them gather them, so they're going to launch.
Yeah,
what
they're
they got,
good.
and those
They're
are
good.
very dangerous. On
Yeah.
the other hand, if you don't let them gather any, you don't get any. So
Then you got to try to do it. So now, like, if you take the ship out, now you're there with all the gear, and this could be like, are we gonna fucking mine this on our own? So like, that gives
risking injury, it's not a safe job.
it gives players out. Yeah, it's not. It's like crab fishing. Everyone thinks it's an easy job until you're fucking doing it. Or deep water welding. Good luck. Real short life expectancy.
Actually, let's add one of those in here, like somewhere like 6.
Sure.
2 crew injured.
Yeah.
Mining shards. You show the yeah, you're lucky. Now there's less of them, but also you see this is a dangerous thing.
Okay. 2 injured, and then do we put a 4 and 6 dead? 4 and 6 chance that they're dead to show how
Sure.
bad it is,
Yeah.
and we just do the like ratio like this.
Yeah.
Done. I love also the fact that we have taught Shadow Dark community that the number in front of a 6 means the fucking die roll to cut down space. It's still. Why have we not been doing that for generations of gaming?
It's been scattered throughout. It just never quite got picked up enough. But
It's
I think it's in the
homogenized.
core. It's core in
Yeah,
Shadow Dark, so it's kind
yeah.
of gotten in there. So it's great.
So we have some of the filler. We can come back and fill these out. What is our 20? Escape? They're gone? Is 19 escape? What do we want to do for these last couple in combat? Like, what's some cool things in Aetherdark that we can give out as an option for these later levels? They can be using rules in the core. Like, we can say, hey, this is the shit you should be using.
Well, let's say they're like smugglers and stuff. There's an item called a smokescreen bellows that like they could use to cover their retreat.
Oh,
So we
okay.
could put in, and that also means that's on the ship, and if you get it, you can steal it.
Oh.
That would be an upgrade for your ship. It's let me see if I can figure out what it does.
Where would we want that at?
In here.
Probably like 18 to get them out?
Yeah. So once they fire that off, disadvantage to range attacks and attempts to maneuver into close.
It's like chafe.
1x4 rounds. Yeah. So yeah,
Or chaff.
use that.
Smokescreen bellows. So that 18, 17, where would you put that at?
Let's put it at 18. Is released.
Release to escape. All
At
right.
that point, they're fleeing.
What page number is that? I'll add a page number to make it easier.
87.
And what do you want the abbreviation for Aetherdark to be? Just AD?
AD. I just do AD.
87. And now we got a nice page number for them so they know where to go look. If that changes, we'll just come back and edit this.
Yep.
What is 20? I think 20 is they escape or your ship was destroyed and they board you.
I
Or
think it's the
scavenge
escape
you.
because they're not going to be. So for them to like get to destroy your ship, they should have to actually attack it. Like that's going to be determined by them shooting you.
Gotcha. So, I mean, how likely are star shards to blow up a manned or an unmanned ship of a player's ship at like whatever level they would roughly be at? Like how bad is it?
This is one of those things that gets really weird because in playtesting, I ran into something where it is potentially a very large problem because when you're playing Spelljammer, when you're playing Aetherdark, when you're playing anything out in space, if the ship blows up, it's TPK.
Mm-hmm. There's no spacesuits, huh?
This is a very highly... well, there are, but what are you going to do? You don't have a ship. You can't get anywhere.
Yeah. You better... Well, you get one in 100 chance that someone picks you up before you run out of fucking air.
And I was very much... In my experience, I don't want to TPK the crew because they got a bad roll. It's one thing when you're in Shadowdark and a bad roll kills one player.
Right.
But when one bad roll can TPK the whole group, that's a problem.
Okay.
So... the way it works is when a ship gets reduced to 0 hull points, it is at disadvantage on all checks, and whenever it would take damage, it instead takes injuries to the crew.
Oh, okay. So you start killing crew off.
Technically, the only way a ship can be destroyed is the GM says so.
Oh, really?
It just goes to 0 hull. It keeps getting damaged.
So it becomes a derelict ship, essentially. Like you can't move.
And I say in the GM advice, it's like you could be more free with blowing up NPC ships than the player ships. Just remember, it's like you just got to remember, if you blow up the player's ship, it's TPK. But the lethality of this stuff is like I also want it to feel really dangerous. So like they're sending Star Spray. It does a die 20 damage. Like. The players are on a bark that has 35 hit points. It could two-shot them. Like, if it crits, it could... like, it's supposed to be dangerous shit.
Yeah.
I want... So, once again, I have played this. This does work with these numbers, but it is something where, like, yeah, your ship gets fucked up fast. Don't fly into combat with willy-nilly. Now, you can reinforce your hull and have a bigger... sturdier hull, have armor on your ship so it's harder to hit. There's a lot of stuff, but we're talking about you're attacking somebody who has probably the best weapon in the game.
Right. Or at least the ammo.
Maybe, yeah. Well, in Aetherdark, the ammo is the weapon.
The weapon.
All of the battery, like the siege battery you have, whether it's a
they just fire damage
or
in the ammo
or a bombard.
Yeah.
They determine which ammo you can use. But they don't determine what the attack does. The ammo determines what the attack does.
Right.
So
well, yeah, and I guess with the ship pulled up, I think the final then on this for me is, I think that we do the pirate Cacum that you have, or I think the Cacum. It gives you 2 decks. They would be mining it. They may be taking this back to a larger fleet or another larger ship, but can they carry enough cargo on here to carry ammo back? Absolutely. So. This might be a really good kind of base ship to use. And then we're also able to give them a page number, and we can modify the ship just because we gave them new ammo and a bellows.
Yep.
So where would we put the ship at then? Are you putting your ships in the monster section, like in the NPC section?
It depends on how much. So this one's a pretty short one, so I'd say probably yes. Sometimes it is an NPC. Whether or not it's on the same page as the crew varies on how much space there is, because you want to have all of the crew stat blocks on one page.
So Pirate Cacum is what I'm gonna put in the monster section, or whatever we end up calling this. What do you call it? Is it a monster section in yours? Is it the crew?
Enemies?
Enemies?
I think I called it enemies. Maybe monster.
Just to keep the same training in place.
Yeah.
And then the Cacum has a description. But I think for ours, I'm going to put the page number, which is page 227, right? Page number, and I'm just going to put that here. I'm just going to put page, let's see here, page 227, just so players know where to, or the GM knows where to look it up, right? And then I think this line should be the change. Use the same ship stats, but add an addition. All right, so what would it be? Same ship, in addition, add what? How do we want to word this? Because we're not changing ship stats. We're not changing it other than giving them the bellows and the shard. It's the same.
I would just reproduce. I would reproduce the stats.
Put the whole thing in here?
Write a new description. Yeah.
And instead of making them cross-check, you would just put the whole thing in?
I mean, so I'm gonna be, once I get to it, I'm gonna open up more of this. I just haven't finished writing that stuff up yet. But like stats are, that's like an implementation of rules, and it's a one stat block. The crew is gonna be different, but this stat block of like it'll fit fine. So right. I don't see an issue with that.
Already done. So we'll unbold it, and then we can go through and addendum things. All right, that's all of our stuff that's in here. We'll go through, we can highlight all of our bolding it and stuff like that. I will put this stat block line in like we keep. I'm gonna keep that. So let's cut this, go like this, go like this, italicized and done. And then we will just add, oh, you actually have bronze in here. Is there a reason for that? Is that a special hull type?
The types of armor, there's you have either no armor, or some things are made out of stone, but that's pretty rare. But mostly you're either unarmored, you have like a lacquered wood exterior on your hull, you have inscribed bronze, runic copper, or steel plating.
And you also have speed up here too.
Yes. So the way that all these ships work is they don't have character stats. Your ship has a speed rating and a maneuver rating.
Sure.
When you make a speed check, you're rolling the ship's speed plus your speed stat. Now, for an enemy ship, you don't write that down. It just has speed.
Gotcha.
It's going to be included. Why? We're not going to make a GM do math. The speed check is totaled up already. This is silly.
So should this be a +1, or should we make this a +2? What would you make this stat?
Leave it a +1. There's no reason, like, unless we're deciding this is a different level or saying, like, it's fine for now. +1.
Not for now. And it looks like you have attack 1, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this here. So we don't need this. And then we are going to add size in, because I see you have size here for your ship. So what's the reason for having size in this? Because that's a new thing we don't really see a lot of.
So size affects a lot of like damage multipliers and things. So like, so this size 3, if it won't come up too much for an enemy ship, but it might be used occasionally. But for example, like if you're flying through an asteroid belt or something, if you fail your maneuver check, you might take damage based on the size of your ship. Because a smaller ship isn't going to hit everything when it flies through something. So it's adding some risk to big ships. That's also because, like, otherwise if you're like, oh, this does a die 8 siege damage to a ship. Well, if you've got like a 100 hull galleon, you're like, oh, I'll just fly through that, whatever. It's die 8 damage.
Now I'm assuming the stat line goes away, and then the level and the alignment goes away, because that'll be with the crew. Yeah, so
if you see down here where it says CRW, that's the crew stat block.
Gotcha, perfect.
And that's the crew stat block is what are the crew on the ship. And then, so you'll notice it has 2 parts. It has crew, and then it has like a number and who's in there. So this had in this 12 Ether Mutant Pirates. We could just do the same thing again.
Yeah.
And they have a page reference in the Shadowdark book, although once again we could rewrite stats.
We can put a new version of the crew on the block next to it.
So this, like, AC and attack, this is for when their crew is fighting your crew. So this is to say each round during a boarding action, what's going to happen is the crews are just kind of fighting each other, and they're kind of scenery. So this thing where I'm hoping GMs will just get it, but I might have to explain it better. But it's this thing where, like, they're part of the environment. I do a lot of theater of the mind, so this works very well. Once again, this scale, you might be able to say, oh, I put 12 people on the map. But if you're on, like, a galleon with, like, 60 people, if you try to put 60 people on the map, you are fucking up. There is not space for 60 people on a map where anybody knows what's going on.
Now, you gotta start grouping people into mobs and shit.
You just say they're in the area, they're all fighting. You, the characters, you're fighting the key crew.
Gotcha.
So
the
key
important
crew, this is
people.
saying, this is the leadership of their ship. You're the leadership of your ship. If you wipe out their key crew, you probably win.
So we're probably
Usually
going
the
to need
rest
a
of the
captain and then crew,
Yeah.
or would we? Was there another important position we would have here, like lead miner? Like what would you?
It's going to depend on how. So if we want this to be, because this is standalone, I would say probably do a few. I would do like have their captain, their actually a Star Shard miner is a great idea because that would be the expert that knows how to do it.
That's kind of what I was
And
thinking
there
too.
could also be value if you manage to capture him alive. You won't kill yourself if you try to do the mining.
Yep.
And then if you want, depending on how much variety you want in the combat, which is that's a design decision. You're
Sure.
doing a lot of the design of this. Like you could add a bosun or a coxswain or something.
I was thinking bosun or man at arms or someone who's like handling shit, or
First
quartermaster,
mate, whatever. There's a lot of room to add somebody who's got a lot of flavor. Like the intro adventure, I went through and I was like, oh, this is a great idea. So like the intro adventure has level 0 gauntlet.
Oh, okay.
And that
love
one
gauntlets.
has the chef.
Ah.
And the chef,
Yes.
I think I did a good job with it, but fundamentally I was just like, oh, what's scary? And I was thinking for a minute, I was like, the butcher in Diablo is scary.
Very scary.
How about a cannibal chef that likes to chop people apart and eat them?
Yes, dude.
Everybody who's going to play it as a player, I just spoiled for you. The big bad in that is the cannibal chef that wants to eat you. But like, you'll find out quick enough when she comes at you with a giant knife.
That's true. That's true.
It's like, so yeah, like anybody on a ship, whoever is the one that's going to add flavor, I would put them in. The rest, you're going to have one default crew block. And that's going to be anytime you have. So
that default crew block is the one that's here on the ship, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it is, but you should have it as a standalone, so it has a full stat block, because a few of them will be in the key crew. So the key crew here, we're going to have probably like one captain, one Star Shard miner, and then probably like 4 crew, like whatever we put there.
Yeah,
and
sure.
This was a weird one where there's lots of like subversions of what the crew is, but
I mean, we just simplified. Then I think the Star Shard miner could be pretty cool, especially if we find out too he has an infection or he has some resistance to it. He has a hardened skin, like something weird to add some flavor to him, which will be fun to design. I just want to placeholder these so we can kind of go back through later.
Yeah, exactly.
And then obviously the fires, it says deals 1 siege per round until extinguished. That's I'm assuming.
So that's
what's
not
that
going to
for?
be here because this was firing. This the CACM in the rules is firing incendiary spheres.
So instead, that would get replaced with our Star Shard?
Yeah, and Star Shard does have an ability. I can't remember what it's called, but Star Shard ability is any attack that hits also reduces AC by 1 until it's repaired number 1.
Oh, so like cuts down armor.
Yep. It is. That's that infinitely sharp. It's actually just straight up destroying your armor. So, in addition to any damage you hear, until you get back to a port and do repairs, it's permanently fucked you up. Like I said, this is one of the dangerous items. This is supposed to be one of the top weapons in existence, is Star Shard projectiles. Not many people use them.
Yeah, so we have Star Shard.
Yeah.
We have Terrifying Assault. Do we keep that? Or do we add something new for that?
So that is something that I give to some like. No, I would switch it up to something that fits for this setting.
Okay,
that was like this is all mutants and they terrify your crew. So
I'm gonna put
breaking
swap.
morale. Yeah, breaking morale is in this like crew. Your crew never makes morale checks.
Okay.
You have to do a rally action.
Oh, okay.
So if somebody terrifies your crew, you got a DC 15 charisma check, or they don't attack because they.
Oh.
Once again, you always want to have more things that the players are doing. So,
right.
Like if you're like, oh, during the crew fight, your crew passed a check and nothing happened, that is not fun play. On the other hand,
not.
If you say your crew is panicked, you got to rally them. Suddenly it's like, oh shit, instead of attacking this round, I'm going to try to like make an epic speech to get them back in the game. And it's like, that's gameplay. So
yeah. Is there we can have something fun with this? Is one I might even think about this. Is there any Star Shard monsters yet? Like constructs out of them or something like that that could be a possible danger here that isn't the crew?
Yeah, we could have some Star Mites dive in. So they're not. It's not clear that they're Star Shards. They're a odd beast. So let me get the actual page. 296 has Star Mites. Okay. They are something where they're like mages may have to kill them, and they're really hard to kill, but not super dangerous. Actually, they're very dangerous. They have
not
one
hard
hit
to kill.
Point. They have 1 hit point.
Oh wow. Okay.
They have 22 AC and a 50% chance to not suffer damage from spells.
So maybe this should be something that we can add as a like everything went fucking wrong.
But yeah, if you have some Star Mites dive in, they would attack anyone. They have a +5 attack bonus. It's only for a die 3 damage, but the idea is they're this supernaturally sharp thing that just like bites through armor and stuff. And they're made out of Star Shards, so they're almost indestructible.
So you're using like fireballs and AoEs to hurt them and spells. So you want a caster, and then so that means, with that said, this crew probably knows about that. So what I'm gonna do, I think I'm going to duplicate this page. I think we're going to need 2 enemy pages is the way it's looking.
Yep.
I'm going to delete this out here. And then we're going to move the Star Mites up to this page. And then we're going to have a good, maybe a monster page here as well. What's up, Cypher? How you doing?
I'll tell you, with this layout, the way that I'm usually doing this is why I said sometimes stuff's going to move. So what I would do is you take on this... Pirate Cacum section, you take the Star Shard and you move it up above.
Yep. That's why you're here. Your layout for this stuff.
You take the Smoke Bellows, you move that up to here.
Okay.
Now, you duplicate this. You take the Pirate Cacum, everything above the crew, and you put that on the same page as like that's on a separate page, because that's when you're fighting the ship. And then you have the crew is when you're fighting after boarding. So like this applies during the boarding action.
I see what you're saying.
This applies while you're at range. So those are, although it's one ship, those are separate encounters, and you can often get your actual back down to 1-page layout by splitting those.
So you're gonna take this piece and you're gonna move it to wherever you have the encounter for ship to ship.
Yeah, so I usually, like, that section will have, like, the random decks you target and all of that. It's unclear, like, where it's going to lay out here is going to vary by how this encounter goes. But if you look at, like, you have the Syndicate one. I did this a bit in there. When the version comes out, I'm still finishing up this revision right now, because you know how it is. Nothing's ever done. I do the Kickstarter, I'm like, oh no, what did I miss?
I'm on like 1.7 for Breachers because I keep I want it in a good format and readiness, so that when I do other ones, I'm really just reusing the format and things that I've trained the audience with. So what I think I'll do is I'll leave this here, and then when we finish this, whatever it is, for the adventure part, we'll put that where it needs to be, but at least we'll leave it here to live. And if we can get this down to 1 afterwards, great. I know I want a captain. I know I want a Star Miner. I love the idea of the Star Mites. I'll add those in. I kind of want another crew or maybe an environmental issue. Like maybe we have a...
Well, here, let's go to that table of events in outer space. That is weather. That's space weather.
Back in the book, you mean?
For that. Like, yeah, I've got a set of, like, if you go to the Clear Ether events at, like, was that, like, 160 or 170 or something?
Yeah, let me just write down this page number so I can come back to it. 227.
176.
Is the ship. 176 is events.
And you got, and, like, it isn't going to be exactly one of these, but you might see something in here that has, So they're mining star shards, so like glittering crystal shards, the outskirts of a recent nova, and that has like, there's a maneuver check or you suffer siege damage, and during a boarding action, 50% chance each round of a rain of star shards requiring dex check from everyone to avoid 1d3 damage or 1d3 injuries for the crew. So,
I can see this being a problem if the group decides to ram that ship to board.
yeah.
I can see them smacking it into the star shard they're mining, and this being the effect from it, cutting it down, but doing something similar to where it's the star exploding. Because if your players don't know how star shards work,
Well, I would say, like, so we figure they're mining a shard. Say this shard is in a field of smaller shards. Now, normally, you can't just mine any random shard in a Nova Blast,
sure.
but they got a large one. But that does mean there's other small shards everywhere that aren't large enough to use, but they're sort of drifting around. So they could just drift by and start pelting into the deck like sharp hail, that's sort of this.
That's the Starlets one? Is that the one you're talking about? The Starlets and crystals drifting?
This was number 6, glittering crystal shards.
Okay. So let me find.
But it could be
glittering.
like some of these others might make sense.
Well, no, so I'm fine with this. So the glittering crystal shards, that's on 177. What I want to do then, because then we can modify it, maybe even make it specific for this. I had a crash timer here as like an option, but this could be the event that's going on during this. I think the goal in any scenario is you have to put pressure of time on your players.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you run into them just taking fucking forever. And we already have a little bit of that with the pressure of rolling on that chart and how things are progressing. But maybe instead of the crash timer, it could be the moving, like the storm, like this piece coming in could be the main danger.
Say that the storm is they're in a Nova storm kind of. So there's shards everywhere and they're moving, and say they are approaching and they're going to get a like timer to like you see a large cluster coming your way.
So here,
and
we'll
it's
do
getting
this.
Closer, and it's getting closer, and like.
Yeah, so what I'm thinking, let me move this down. We'll have to kind of finagle size a little bit. I want it to be double stacked for this, I think. We'll see. No, I can get it. We can get it in here. It's just going to be a slightly different title size. I don't like changing title sizes, so I might go through and change them all to this title size afterwards.
I feel that so much.
Oh god, dude, it's just finagling, constantly finagling. But the storm title timer, I think here we can say, what would this be? Not scenario event, but what would we want to call this? Like, this is the overarching thing that is happening during all of this. It's kind of like your torch timer, to be honest. I almost wonder if you make it.
Actually, make it a timer. Put a. So if we do, so we can do multiple timers. So I would say like. I don't think this is gonna be a super long event. I think this is gonna play pretty quick. Is that your sense too?
I mean, yeah, I think this is like part of your session. Maybe it's one session. Maybe it's a part of the session.
So, but I'm thinking like 30-minute timer. They see the shard cluster approaching.
Right.
So they don't know this is a problem, and then after it's been 30 minutes, you say that star cluster is coming, and then you say, I'm starting another 30-minute timer.
Oh, okay.
And then you're like, at the first 30-minute timer, they get, they get dex checks and maneuver the ship to avoid.
If they're still on the ship.
And then you say, I'm starting, well, this is going to be the whole region.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
This is like, you might have to flee, and then there's another 30-minute timer, and after this, no check, too many shards, just take damage.
How many rounds does it take to get out? That's probably a really important question here.
Yeah, I don't know.
How long would you say is it localized enough to where it's 2 rounds of damage? 3 rounds of damage?
Yeah, I think 2 rounds to flee.
2 successful checks to get out? That's probably even better, actually. 2 successful pilot checks to get out?
Yeah, probably. I would do like, actually, I would do 3 rounds or 2 successful.
Bring that.
Actually, I do
one of the only good things that came out of 4th edition is the challenges.
Speed checks.
Yeah. So that gives us something cool. So what do we call this event then? So we got the Nova Storm timer at the top, or I'll just put Nova Storm at the top.
Yeah.
And then that will let us go back to our original, what is this, 46.6 fucking font, whatever the fuck this ended up being. And I will resize that later. So we'll put that back to that, and then you got it. Exactly. And then we fit something there. This can go all the way across, by the way. No, it will. Hold on.
Yeah.
You just gotta boop that.
It was not going to fit with V at the start. But Approaching Storm doesn't.
Approaching Storm
I was like,
fits.
I gotta remove the V. But Approaching Storm fits.
And so here's a question too. Do we put check boxes next to these? For the GM to mark?
I would add a note to yourself that this is the sort of checkbox
So ready?
should be on one of the tracking pages.
When you highlight over this,
You know what I
right?
mean?
When you're highlighting this, there's a comment section. And you can just put a comment so you can come back and edit it later. So this would be a tracking sheet. Put the timers on a printable tracking sheet.
Yeah, because like I would ideally have this on the same sheet that has the map of the ship or something like that.
Exactly. I'm thinking the ship will be in the top half and the bottom half will have the timers, and then I think maybe a checkbox for where they are in that event timer as well. Like how fucking far into the shit show are you? And that gives you a nice little printable sheet that goes at the end. But Cree and I have actually talked a lot about having these tracking sheets. Like so much so he went back for his and made a tracking sheet because it just a GM needs a quick way to know what the fuck he's doing. He's playing a computer to do this stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like that. So we got 30-minute timers. That's dope.
And that makes this an hour and a half, and I think an hour and a half is plenty of time for what we've described here. This is not a lot.
No, yeah.
You got like 3 rooms in the whole dungeon. You've got like 4 or 5 enemies. This is actually a lot of time. We're not really rushing anyone, but we are punishing them if they fuck off too long.
So if they're doing a social encounter, they're coming in here and like, maybe it's not even social. It's more like, all right, everybody, you're outnumbered. Get on your knees. We're taking the shit off your ship. We want to do this before the storm comes in. You want to do it before the storm comes in as well. So here's the negotiation. We're taking your shit. We're fucking leaving. We want our crew member back or whatever the hook was. And they're bouncing. So it's almost an intimidation parlay than it is social dinner. Like they are parlaying to get their stuff off the ship with no combat. And then leaving. Because if they take all their ammo, you can't fire at me. Or dump it off the ship, the ammo you don't want. That was one of my favorite things to do when I was playing a privateer in games. We would dump their ammo off ship. You don't ammo, you can't fire. You can use your guns, I guess.
In all fairness, though, this is in outer space. So it doesn't fall. There's no gravity out there.
Well, you want to go
So
swim
dumping
out
it
and get
isn't
it. Good luck. It is also...
You can get it. No, you can in this. You can in this. Because there's no... So this is something that I know a lot of people go the other way on, but I didn't like dealing with like, oh, why is there air on these ships and everywhere else? You can just breathe in ether. Ether is breathable.
Sure.
This is a lot more fantasy, so you can breathe off the ship.
It's a
and you
plane
can
of existence.
move around there.
The atmosphere here is breathable.
They can just get back off their ship and get it.
Well, you can't walk in the ether, though, can you?
You can sort of ether swim. It's
is it
hard.
0G?
It is not exactly 0G. You can do DC 15 con check to move near.
But you still would have to go out and get, like, if you push ammo out, does it have inertia? Does it have momentum? Like
it does to a point. It does to an extent. I don't actually define that. Like, if I was running at my table, there would be some limits, but I would rather that be the GM's
call.
That is getting into the degree of minutia where you'll.
That's table side.
If I start writing that up, I start writing that up, it'll create this thing where a player says, "But the book said this," and the GM is like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
Yeah, fuck you.
So
that's
I don't
the GM's
write
problem.
that in there.
Yeah. That's the GM's problem. I agree.
I try to write in enough to help the GM, but not trap them. I hope I hit the note, but that to me is very much the trapping the GM side of things.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bullet point this, I think. So these are bullet pointed. We'll just delete that. So we have that. I'll bring this 4-round successful speed. We'll bring that back up to it as well. I have a table here if we need I just made a D6 table because you always fucking need them for something when you're writing Shadow Dark stuff.
Yep.
So now we have a roaming Nova Storm. So if we go back up here, we have a how to use. And then we have our heading. So I'm going to go back to the introduction to kind of wrap up what we're doing here, because then I can go back and design this thing, or we can come back and do this another time after the Kickstarter and after everything's finished and see what we get out of it. But I think I can design this now in like a weekend and have it done. Is there any notes that you would say from Aetherdark that I should be highlighting and bringing over to make an adventure feel like it belongs in Aetherdark? Like, as a GM running your system and setting, what are the key mechanical pieces I should be bringing in to make them feel like they're playing this and not Star Wars and not Spelljammer identically? Like, what do I bring?
That is one of the tricky ones, because I did try to be pretty generic.
Sure.
Because I've said this before, I wanted to make a toolkit. I think there isn't actually much that you don't already have here.
Okay.
So there is some stuff like what stars are and all that. That's setting stuff. Like, stars are crystal spheres, and they're like 30 or 40 feet across, sometimes up to a mile. They're not giant balls of fire.
Right.
Giant balls of fire are suns. Those exist in worlds. Stars are things that exist in the ether between worlds. That sort of setting thing is kind of important. That'll set it apart. And like the boundaries between worlds, but that hasn't come up in here.
No, this is a little set piece.
Adventure writing wise, there's something that is, I think, big for a lot of like planet side adventures that doesn't come in here, which is when I do a planet side adventure, I always have a couple specifically written out crew event hooks, because unlike you do a standard adventure, you say, well, the PCs are going to be here. If you know this is Aetherdark, you know that they have a ship, and they've got a crew, and they're not sending the whole crew into the dungeon, because then some dudes steal their fucking ship.
Yeah.
Like, you do not leave that ship abandoned. It's
no, you have crew for that.
So you have to have crew events, but this is not happening. The crew is going to be present at all times. But the remaining thing I would say is going to come up here is, so you do a boarding action. The basic, like, if you actually, you can pull this up so people can look along.
Sure.
If you go into the rules, there's boarding actions are page 100, and it is a 2-page spread of rules, and it tries to be pretty clear without giving too much. So there's this whole key fight and crew fight.
Okay.
And the structure of this generally is, each round the crew is going to each round you do everything you're going to do, and then at the end of the round your crew rolls an attack and their crew rolls an attack.
So it's like set up and resolve
to each other. Well, yeah, you do everything you do. So everything in this, so like the same thing happens in ship combat. So like 2 ships are fighting each other. You do all your actions, you figure all the siege damage from all that, and then at the end of the round, the results of all movement checks for the ships happen. So during a round, the ships are always the same distance throughout.
That was the hour timer.
Yeah. That was it. Okay. Okay. Oh, we're right on time. This is basically perfect. So yeah, like there's this, like the extra stuff. I basically like, this is part of the wrap up. This is part of the environmental effects, which is the GM I always do at the end of the round. The crew fight does the same thing. At the end of the round, their crew rolls, your crew rolls, you find out injuries. I will note, when I do the sheets for these, I always have numbered list for the crew. When you injure somebody in the crew, roll that die 20 and don't say one crew member was injured. Say Todd was injured.
Yeah,
Todd
give the names.
Yeah. Like the crew sheet has space for names to make it personal, because that makes it all feel so much more real. But
the crew sheets are at the back of this book, correct?
Yeah. And they're going to get revised. I think I had an earlier version which looked better, but I had to change it to be more accurate. And now I'm not going to do the cleaned up one until I'm sure I'm done tweaking the rules.
Yeah.
So long to do
character sheets are the last thing you do, because you have to have all the things in place before you can build the dressing to go over it. Now, it's
so we have
100%
functional
true.
ones.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, you don't. So you're saying, as GM wise, you as the crew, you're fighting these 4 members of the key crew, and then around them, their crew is fighting your crew. They're this background element, but you don't want to be entirely background. So you have boarding events, which is each round you roll a d4 on this table, or the event table will change.
Okay.
There's an example on that page. If you go to the crew section, every crew has its own event table. And that is like, so like this one here is like boarding events. 1, nothing happens. 2, shifting decks, DC 14, or PCs fall over. So they moved their ship, somebody tweaked it, now everybody stumbled because you didn't expect it. Stray C shot, die 6 damage to all PCs and die 6 injuries. Or one of the crew members from their crew joins the key fight and they have 1 more reinforcement.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I see that. Yeah,
we're
you got
doing
the
a
event
big
table. So
event.
I just relabeled the D6 table for that. You have a D4. I might just drop it down to that. But yeah, so we'll have a boarding event table there.
I vary. Some of them are D3 tables, some of them are die 6. But the point
It's
is,
how involved you want to be.
Stuff that says you want to have this stuff that says the crew is doing something, and the players can't just pretend they don't exist.
Gotcha. Okay.
And
that makes a lot of sense.
There's a few examples in there. There's more. So you can look at the examples I have. I have more in the setting book, but I don't think they're in the preview I gave you. So you don't have those yet. But
I have the. Well, I don't know. This preview's got 300 and something pages in it.
there are multiple other things that are going to be in it. I didn't have everything ready to go at the preview.
Gotcha.
So the setting book is the one that had the most art still pending and still does. So I didn't have it in the preview because like over 2/3 of it, I always do artist briefs in line. So like 2/3 of the book just had like yellow boxes with like art goes here, dimensions. And I was like, I can't fucking do this.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I would say we want boarding events. We also might want to have, because we're doing, so the crews are fighting each other. We have a multi-room thing. Now, I just do one for default crew, but if you want to make this more interesting, you might be like, this is the specific crew event for room 1. This is the specific crew. Because you could say like, oh, in the cargo bay, they have I don't know, this barrels
whatever
are
it
stacked
is
extra high, and you can have they throw the barrels down as one of the random events.
Gotcha. So
if the
looking
crew is fighting throughout the ship, you said that's something I haven't done much, but I've worked on. Like it's in one adventure I wrote for my home game, and I'm like, this works, but it's not in anything, but a recommendation to work on. Yeah.
Okay. So the goal then is to try to get these enemies down to 1 page currently. I think that we have the encounter in the front. I have some counter. I think maybe I'll put those tables you're talking about in the front page there. So the sheet has the map, and then maybe actually the back has the encounter tables. The way we are taught in Shadowdark, though, is technically the map goes in the front, and the next page has the tables. But I think I want the back piece to be separate from the zine if it was to be printed in my brain. So it's setting down,
you're
you can
saying
hold
it's going to
it.
be fitting across.
Like a dust jacket. Because I remember in the old modules, like I was talking to somebody about this, and I had them be separate so that you could have it sitting down and have the pages in your hand. You could bookmark it, but you could always have the map and the encounter, or just if it's a 2-page map in front of you. So I think the map in the front, and I think the back is actually probably going to be the encounter tables for the inside of the cover.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So we move this here, and then this will become something up front. This will become the different page. So I'm going to put this for, boy, this is going to have to get replaced with something. I'm going to put question marks because I don't know what the hell that's going to be, but this is going to be the back inside cover. And then the cool thing about Canva is I can hyperlink just like you can with everything else. And you can like color code your hyperlinks and all that shit. So when this is done, every label you have for those pages, those names, are what you can quick hyperlink to, and it hyperlinks to that page for you. Just like you do in InDesign or anything else, because that's what we all work in forever. But, you know, InDesign crashes constantly.
It's Affinity now. You're living in the past because
I have Affinity too.
InDesign is so expensive.
There is problems with Affinity, though, on a
there are
large level where I can't co-op with large companies when I'm doing shit with them. And you get a lot of problems there. There's also problems. There's no scripting. I can't script. I want script for automation.
Trust me, I know the limits. I used InDesign when I was in college the first time, 24 years ago. So I used it a bit, and I was familiar. And then I went to this, and I was like, so I did this whole book in Affinity because I
love Affinity.
That.
I'm not complaining.
It's great. And
personal projects, it's gangbusters.
But I can see where it would be a problem with working with people. Yeah,
well, in Affinity, I do like that all of the programs are wrapped into one, but Affinity does not replace Illustrator yet. There's nothing in the Affinity suite that's something as a graphic designer.
I do all that shit in Inkscape, but you can tell that I'm not a heavy graphic designer, or I wouldn't be able to do it in Inkscape.
No, yeah. And there's always workarounds. Look, use what works for you. If it gets the job done and you can sell that product, this is just to the audience. Fucking use it. I don't care if you use MS Paint and you're making 100%. Money. Like, my buddy uses cork to design all of his stuff because he works in an industry where he works in cork every day of his life. So anything that would be a problem for you and I, he's like, no, man, I've been doing this for so long. It's not a problem. This is the solution.
I used Quark Express 25 years ago too, and it sucked.
A lot of programs
I didn't
still
learn
use
it because it was painful.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's still there.
It's still around. It's a Quark for a reason, because I like to call it a mistake. Like, it's horrible. So I think then we got our cover page. I'm trying to do something on the front. The map will be here. Then after the map, we'll have something. This is going to get replaced. I don't know with what. So again, I'm going to put question marks across this. We're going to grab this update thing, and we're going to scroll through and put that here. Go back to the main page.
I will say for cover page stuff, everybody out there, not just you, but remember, NASA-owned images are in the public domain.
Oh, I'm way aware.
There is, like, it is hard. It may be hard to get, like, Aetherdark specific art, but
I can draw
space art is amazing. Like,
I have it right now. You can barely see it, but there's a skull.
Yeah. No, I see it, and it's good stuff.
It's just clean.
I'm just like I've seen that and I know that but I want to remind everyone out there that NASA has a lot of good content. Like all through that core rulebook you're flipping through, I have these 2-page spreads of NASA art. They look fucking amazing.
They're great.
They're like a million DPI image from James Webb Telescope. Like, come on, man.
Right. And
I'm not going to beat that out.
Yeah, and there's no reason not to use it. Public domain stuff is fan. I'm using public domain Victorian art for my Soul Punt Victorian horror setting. And it's old Victorian ink and paintings I can just use. And I'll draw over some of them and repaint some of them. It's pretty wild. Or I'll kit bash them into like numerous different things.
Yep.
So I know for sure I'm going to use the cover, the map. I'll figure out what this is. Obviously the blank, licensing pages. This is a good thing to kind of help close out the show. When you're licensing with Aetherdark, my understanding is you only need that tiny piece, correct? You don't need rules 1 through whatever. That's what I thought. No, and this will be for like
that bit.
Yeah, and this will be for like names and whoever's involved. If I pull from sites, I start filling this out as I go. I tell designers, have your license and kind of content page set and ready. Because then you can go through and just add as you play through, and you don't forget to put people's names there and shit. The one thing I am noticing that I'm missing is I don't have my table of content page. And I usually don't put a table of contents page until I hit 8 pages to 12 pages. Because at 6 pages, you're just flipping through the book. There's no reason. And if 2 of those pages are the inside cover, like you're not hyperlinking. But if this hits up to 12, I'm going to have to add a table of contents page.
So
that's going to have
I
to go
would
in
say
here.
the one thing that I would be doing, so this layout for me, I would not have a table of contents, but I would have the second half of the introduction page, because I think the intro fits on the first column. I would the second column be the how to use this, and that would double as table of contents, because that would say like, this is the enemy. It would have like a 1-line description of the villain, but it also have a link to him.
You're saying here, so in the intro page, like we have the what's happening here.
I do that fairly often, where I'm like, oh, I can put it's not a table of contents, but it works.
It's
as
a guide.
And that's what the table of contents is for. Like, this is not a big enough thing to need a full page.
No,
but that half page, I don't think you're using that.
Not
like,
yet.
Maybe once you're further in, you're like, oh, actually, I needed that. Never mind. But right now, to me,
we'll put this here, and I'll kind of line this up, and now we have this, and this will be the. I'll move this into how to use.
Yeah.
Like so. And then what I usually do, I know that this is going to be either a bullet list. A lot of times I'll go through and make custom bullets to put here. And I'll just put add important info and use to hyperlink parts of the adventure. And then I'll go like this just to space it out for myself, right? And I'll do that. That also allows me to then go in here and go, damn, that means this next how to use page can turn into something else. And we can use this for something fun.
eat that whole page.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, exactly. So this now becomes, again, question marks. What the fuck am I going to use this for? We know we have play space now. That's part of what I do these shows, is teaching people kind of thinking process. And I know we got the Nova Storm. That's important. The Nova Storm is probably one of the first things you need to see after how the game is played, how the session is played. Then you got your boarding table. So they go, look, I'm looking through this. This is how the boarding works. We have our enemies. We're going to try to get that down to one table. The encounters will be on the back. I agree. Encounters by room is kind of my idea for what I want to do. And if you go on this big page overview and you click the buttons up here, you can comment on page overviews instead of commenting buried down. So I'm probably going to give myself a note here that's like, hey, how am I going to use this section? So I'll probably comment on this page as well as a whole. I think this encounter, I like the idea by rooms. I really think that's a cool idea because it's only 2 decks. And I honestly think it should be upper deck, whatever's in the lower deck, and maybe even if someone's brave enough to go by the shard.
Yeah, so, I would have that one. Also, the map layout of that one has a split lower deck. So there's multiple rooms in the lower deck. Yeah, it has a divide down the middle. So most of these ships are designed after stuff. That was just designed off of a layout of an actual Kakum. Like, the Kakum is the local name for what we usually call a junk. And that was an actual, like, that is.
I just got done doing a huge vessel design. I was like, I feel like I know this from something.
Yeah,
so
is
it down the middle?
A layout for that.
Is it long ways or is it in the middle short way?
Short way. So there's a fore half and an aft half.
Gotcha.
And then they also have there are tiny rooms down there also. So there is some subdivision to this.
Gotcha.
But the top deck is fairly open. Like, it has a raised in the lower center, but.
And what would you call the mining spot?
I would just
Shard Star? What is it called?
Say, like, I would call it a starlet, a large, like, intact starlet. I guess that makes sense. So, like, because normally, obviously, because these star shards are rare, the issue is normally, like, when you get a Nova, nothing is good enough quality to make a
one's kind of moved in here and they're taking it.
But this one, they're like, there's a high quality one, we can mine it, and it's like, okay, that's rare. So this is a, like, intact starlet. Normally starlets are, like, fractured. It's kind of like how people are like, there's a valuable gemstone, but most large gemstones can't be faceted or anything. This is like a chunk that you could make useful spears out of, which is rare.
Okay, well, that's cool. So that gives me 4 little tables I can build here, and I could probably pare them down to 4 quadrant tables. Here's kind of my thought. Maybe one big one across and some small ones at the bottom for things that are like the rooms, if there's some things I want in those. So that gives us this really shouldn't be encounters. This should probably be zones to me. Like the different zones that you can do things in. And it sounds a little more sci-fi spacey to say the word zone. And then with that, if that's going to become zones, that gives us our back in cover. And then what would you put on the back of an adventure for an Aetherdark adventure? Like, I like using all the space to do shit. Like, I have carousal table on the back of Breachers. Like, what would you put on the back? Like, maybe a treasure chart to, like, what you could loot off the ship?
Yeah, that was my first thought, but also that seems a bit plain because, like, you don't need to. So I want the back to be something that you want to reference.
Oh, and it should also draw them into, like, if this was on a shelf, why would I run this? Like, what's this piece of information?
Maybe. Yeah, just the loot seems like something. It's like, you do that after you're done with it. Like, that was the loot. I don't know. That wouldn't draw me in, but I also don't know.
What about NPC? What about NPC? Like, what about Star Shard? Like minor wounds or special features or replacement limbs or something like that. Like, because these people are getting, like, shit cut off of them doing this.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that.
Prosthetics?
You could definitely do that. You could have, so this is, the setting officially has, like, ether is somewhat dangerous, so, it mutates people. So these people have probably been out here for too long. So you could have some
Mutations? Oh,
You could
mutations
have-
table.
Now, there is a tricky thing where if you do mutations that are powerful, then you have to start worrying about affecting stat blocks. But you could have like cosmetic mutations
Yeah.
where you're just like, this guy's looking fucked up.
I mean, look, I think that mutations are fine. We have a lot of dead levels in Shadowdark. The levels you're not getting talents, you're just getting hit points. These are those fun things to plug into those levels.
Yeah. And so like there is a mutation table in the core book, but it's not a huge one. It's meant to be like, oh, by the way, there are mutations.
They exist. Go
and
make your own.
Make your own. Like, let's see, where is it? I do that with a lot of stuff where I'm like, this isn't supposed to be everything. Remember,
Yeah.
there's more.
I think I like the idea of mutations on the back. I have a good idea for doing mutations on the back. Mutations,
Yeah, so
and
if
maybe
you
I'll do
go
mutations, and
in the-
then I'll do stars below it for like some separate things as well.
If you go to page 170 to 171 in the core book, it has a die 20 table of ether mutations.
Did you say 170?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just to give you a like, this is sort of where I went, and once again, like, make your own. I always want people. This is supposed to be like inspiration, so
Yeah, Spark tables. So I'm a big fan of Mythic Bastion lands. I think Chris
Yeah.
is a genius level designer that like just gets how to take design and GMing out of his head and put it into a contextual format. Like you just get it. And when he started calling things Spark tables, I feel like that changed the bad taste people have in their mouth for encounter tables, random encounter tables. You're like,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
this isn't a counter. This is a spark of idea. Like, you don't use it verbatim. You use it as a springboard.
yeah.
And that's
I've got-
kind of what this is.
I do those in all of the zines I'm making for the individual worlds.
Yeah.
Oh, one of them I'm so happy with. Like some of them I'm just so happy with. Where like I have a corrupting force and I have all these corruption pieces. I have like there's like I think 80 different like various improvements and like 100. There are like thousands of different creatures you come up with off of this, and it's like. But it's pretty robust, and also like random fungus like beasts that will interfere. I don't know. It's that's stuff I'm looking forward to putting out, but I can't have in this Kickstarter.
Right? Yeah. Hey, growth.
Like I
growth.
so want to show it to people, and I can't yet, and it's
Yeah.
driving me nuts.
Yeah, I know that. I know that
Uh.
feeling. I have a whole soldier in camp thing I'm building for Breachers right now, where it's like how you set up camps and what they bring, and there's like a cool mechanic that gets brought in for Breachers. I was like, oh, I wish I could have fit this in the 52 one, but I can't, so it's gonna have to go in another book.
I
feel you.
So bitching to another developer working on this because this is a huge project. It
Yes.
was a huge undertaking. Oh man, a few months ago I had to change my viewing habits
Oh,
because when I watch some YouTube channel
starts.
with designer talking about stuff, I suddenly have to do something, and I had too many things where I was like, I couldn't think about Aetherdark because I wanted to make some dumb thing because I watched like, so I was like, I can't
100%.
watch these anymore. So I had to stop watching a lot of my favorite stuff because otherwise I would never finish this because I had too many good ideas. I look forward to getting back to those once this is out.
yeah. I have a process for design where I consume a bunch of media over time, and then I take a bunch of notes. I like brain drain it, get it out, and then I
Yeah,
go
I
back
do
to
a
what
lot
I'm
of that.
doing, so I can go back to this second brain that I'm making right now. So my
Yep.
ideas are there. But if I don't dump it out, one, I don't sleep. Like I can't fall asleep.
No, and that's exactly it.
Yeah, I've 100%. And that's why like, I read through this. I was like, well, now I want to make an adventure for this. I need to have this in a layout and ready so that I can just, when I get ideas, come in, work on it. So my goal then with this, I think I'm going to on Saturday, come back. Friday, I'm going to go through and go through this, put things in place. Saturday on Rise and Design, my long show, my 4-hour one, I'll crank out some stuff on design in this and really get it down to like a usable set piece. And then in between seasons, we get dead airtime, or I run a lot of paid adventures. I might just pop this down and run it and see how it goes. But like, to me, boarding actions, when I read it, it's such a huge part of naval-based games. People always want to do it, but GMs who don't run this kind of stuff don't actually know how to do it. Like, it doesn't have to be firing in combat. You could be sneaking aboard. You could be already on board. Fuck, you could be stowaways as an option. Like, there's so many ways to do a boarding action. Like, the Trojan horse boarding action is one of my favorites. What are you guys doing? We're in the cargo that just got shipped down. We swapped docks. We're in the boxes. We're ready to go. And then it's like getting out and handling it on a clock timer before you alert someone. And
I gotta say, I'm really looking forward to reading your finished one. And to anyone out there that sees this and is thinking about Aetherdark stuff, please show me what you're doing. Because so like I've done okay, Kelsey made Shadowdark, and I've done a lot of that sort of stuff too. And there is something where you're designing something like that, where I have made fantasy adventures for 25 years. Yep. Mostly for home use, but I've made them, and I know how to make them, and I have read so many of them. I know all of it. When it comes to something like this, like I've read some of the Spelljammer stuff, I've looked at some Traveler stuff. There is not a lot. Most of it, like
Nick just said
sci-fi is new. I want to see how somebody else does this so I can get better, because I am doing my best to give you the tools to make this work. But we know that I'm one GM. My best will never be enough. Anybody that thinks that they're enough, they're living in a fantasy world. So
and that's what I've always said. Like, co-op design is hard. Like, one, you got to swallow your ego, and two, like, co-op is where the better stuff comes out, because you start hearing plays off of what you're doing, and people don't believe this, but designers design in parallel. They may not think it, but it's true. Literally, the paid game I went to go do yesterday for Dragon Sandbox, all the GMs, there was 3 of us. There's 3 tables in total, and no joke, we all use some form of were creature or hounds for the adventure. There's thousands of monsters, thousands. But for some reason, all of us did the same thing, and none of us talked to each other. No one knew. I had blink hounds and blink hyena knoll creatures that were were creatures that were sleeping bags that were magically bound to people's skin. And when they wake up, the sleeping bag dies off and can't use powers. But when they're sleeping, the bag takes over. Like, this fucking wild stuff. And he's like, I'm using werewolves. And she's like, I'm using lichens. Like, so are we all doing this under a blood moon? They're like, we're fucking all doing this under a blood moon. It's just one of those things that GMs just, we all think similar. So seeing other people's work gives you new ideas. Nick just said, he's like, if you go look at Lost People, one of the adventures he did for Shadowdark, he's got mutations in it. So, like, there's some really good...
are so fun.
Yeah, there's good shit out there that you can do. And also, nothing's better than a mutation that only lasts X time frame. Because then you don't have to worry about the player having it forever, but it could be a really good idea for a mutation potion that only lasts 1 day. Until next camp, and then it wears off when you go to sleep. Things like that. That's how I'm doing my recipes for cooking. They last for a day or maybe 1 roll, and then maybe there's a side effect the next day where, like, your lips have moss growing on them. Whatever the fuck it might be. So those things are great. Micah, thank you so much for coming on. I hope this helps people who are looking at picking up the Kickstarter and, like, backing it and being a part of it, that there is a lot here to design around. We took a little over an hour. We did an interview in the beginning, took a little over an hour, and we have a 12 to 14 page piece right now that we're going to try to whittle down into that 8 to 12 where you get an adventure. And this is me making something to publish. If you just did this at home, you could sit down, write down 10 ideas, scratch the ones off you don't want to use, combine 2, and then make an adventure. And read the book, because like he's saying, there's a lot of really different aspects of, like, when you're into Aether, it is not the same as space travel. It's not the same. It's very different. And there's some fun, creative spaces in that I don't know if everybody knows how to play with. And that book kind of teaches you what to do. But yeah, I'm excited.
I tried to make tools.
Yeah, tools. How many sockets can you make?
You said what could be something that's happening in the environment. I actually do have tables of the environment. You can just look. We just had to flip to that page. Yep. There was one there. It works. Yep. Yeah. Tweak it a bit. It works for this adventure. That's the idea. I'm just trying to give everyone as many tools as I can. I'm glad you're liking them.
So I guess to close this out, would you say that the adventures you're putting out are really going to kind of focus in on the different aspects of Aetherdark and kind of serve up the new rules and the new things on a platter form? Is that kind of what the different adventures do, or do they more dive into the setting?
So I've got a split here. So I've got the core adventure that I'm coming out with now is what I call an antagonist.
Mm-hmm.
They're not. It is just a persistent bad guy. That's why it has that one has 9 ship encounters and I think 6 planet side encounters, but it has no order for them that they have to happen, no location they have to happen in. So this is hey, here are a bunch of ways you can do a ship to ship encounter. It's not too in depth on any of them. Once again, that's 17 encounters on one 60-page book. Right. They are very brief. They're a skeleton. They're supposed to be a tool. But it is supposed to be hey, here's a way that you could sort of have a core of a campaign.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep doing those. So that's this one, the Syndicate, is kind of like Slaver Pirates. And then one of the ones I want to do is I want to do a group of Aethercaps on spider ships because I think that would be great. And I want to do... I
love Aethercaps.
One that was in the initial, but I decided that it wasn't getting enough. It wasn't well enough developed to put into the core book. I want to do it better. I want to do the Star Children, which are people that have found a way to just live permanently in the ether, and they're all mutated and want to mutate more people. So you want to have bad guys like those, and those are going to be the ones. As I do those are going to be more of this is the ether half of it. But then the other adventure set is for each world. I do a adventure that's just in that particular setting.
Sure.
So the idea is that I do want to have this space stuff, but I want this to still be Shadowdark. You go down to planets and you go into dungeons. I like dungeons. I want to be able to fly to a different world and go to a different dungeon. Yeah. So I do those dungeons for each world to introduce that world.
New dungeon dressing too. They're not traditional dungeons. Yeah, they have some different vibe to them. It also allows GMs to pick up a fantasy set piece adventure and plug and play it.
Yeah, so but I want them to be settings that you couldn't do in Shadowdark. I emphasize that occasionally. The one that everybody goes to, which will I think be in the first Kickstarter after this, maybe the second. It depends on when stuff gets done. You got the entire world is one giant tree, but tens of thousands of miles tall, with a city on the tree. And the tree is getting overwhelmed by rot and corruption that's some evil entity that corrupting force. And there's an adventure to fly down into the lower part of the city, because it's a vertical city up the side of a tree. And you fly into it, and there's fungal monsters and mutant beasts. And you can't have a 10,000 mile tall tree in a hex.
Oh.
If it can just fit into the next hex over, then why do we need this? So I want to have stuff that you can't just put in the next hex over. That the whole world is fundamentally different. And that you have to deal with those differences. Now, to be clear, there are going to be ones where it's a kind of normal world. You want variety. You want some of these where it's no, that can't be the next one over. The Astral Spires, that's the first one. So that'll definitely be in the first zine set. That one, they're in these spires, and so the world is turned into, there's just spires in a misty expanse. But each of the spires is held up by a powerful entity. If you kill that entity, that chunk of the world collapses, killing everything on it. But that results in a dungeon. So let's say you are on an island that is sustained by a Hydra. If you kill the Hydra, the world collapses under your feet. And there's a timer. You might get out alive, but that introduces this whole world where there's dungeons where you can't kill the boss. You kill the boss, the dungeon collapses. Yeah. And it's I like that. I like that element. And this okay, now you're on spires in a sea of mist, and they collapse if the powerful entity dies. And even the friendly towns, they're sustained by a wizard who, if you disagree with him, he could make the world end. So
I mean, and also I believe in choices and dilemmas for players. Anyone who's watched my shows, I want you to have to make important choices as a player character, because that's part of the story. And I don't like railroad stories. I think a lot of Shadowdark players feel that way. We like to give a sandbox with a boundary, but not this is your line. And we like storytelling to be through exploration and through interaction. we may have our own stories as GMs. I'm a storyteller. I like having a story ready for what we're doing, but a lot of our story just comes from what the players do. It's an action or a interaction based story, not, okay, Queen says X, what do you do? Like it, we want openness and things like that where you're like, you destroy this dungeon. Like that's a story in and of its own.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really do enjoy that kind of stuff.
So that's where I aim with the adventures, is this, like, these have to exist in Aetherdark. They don't explain, they're not like, you could be on that world and just only ever on that world and you're playing a different game, but you couldn't just walk there in Shadowdark. I want it to be different. I want it to need the world. Once again, where I started, why are all these settings Western European? How about we have something different?
I mean, because that's where D&D started. Like, that's why.
Yeah, and I
we
love
know
that.
why.
And
it's just
I
time
love
for
that.
some more.
But
we want more stuff.
The issue is that's fine for the base setting, but if you're gonna fly through the stars to infinite worlds, I want to go somewhere.
Right.
So I do like that the Western Reaches is basically Western European. Like, it feels a lot that way.
It's a little bit of the Arabian Night feel in some areas too, and stuff like that.
Like,
the City of Masks, I'm super excited for.
That sounds like Venice, which is still Western European. But
if it is, I don't know what it is yet. It might be. I don't know. I don't know anything about it yet.
But like, it's all. I'm all in favor of that. But I also want you to be able to go somewhere else. I'm not going to make something that lets you fly between the stars and not have my emphasis on the somewhere else.
Absolutely.
Like, yeah. Play Forgotten Realms if you want to play Forgotten Realms.
I was just going to say that. Go play Forgotten Realms or Birthright. So I put the Kickstarter back in here. For those who are interested, there is 5 days left on this one, already funded. When to close this out, when do PDFs deliver? What's the rough time frame for you? And then I'm not even gonna ask print because we live in a fucked up print environment right now.
No, so I'll give you the timelines for everything. I'm hopefully gonna send out an email shortly before it ends to clarify my plans, and then there'll be like a timeline once it actually closes. So I'm gonna send out mostly complete PDFs. There will be art missing.
Sure.
The day or the day after the money clears.
Oh, nice. So that's
With
usually
Kickstarter,
3 to 7 days, depending on what's going on. It could be up to 14 sometimes.
We're down. This is under 50K, so it probably will be that 3 to 7 days. It should be done. Like, I have PDFs ready.
Yeah, I mean, we've been looking.
There'll be the caveat on everything of like, this art isn't done. This is going to change. But
they're placeholder pieces. Yeah, exactly.
So that's all going to go out day one once I have the money. You're not like, don't send stuff out before the money clears. There's a reason for this.
Yes.
So that's going to come then, and then it's going to be playtest period where I'm going to keep tweaking and updating. For a lot of reasons, the playtesting is gonna end sometime in August, and then in August I'm gonna start going to a printer with the goal that if everything worked perfectly, it would be going into print in September and shipping towards the end of September. Mm-hmm. We will assume that everything will go wrong and it will ship towards the end of October or maybe November.
Yeah.
Just so people are clear on this is something where this is. If you're doing a Kickstarter and you're maybe going to hit high numbers, it can really matter. Because unless you're going to do fancy tax stuff, if you have the money from the Kickstarter in a different tax year than the expenses paid out, you don't get to count that as a loss.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
For my life, I have to print it the same year that I get the cash.
Yeah.
So it has to. So I have to finish this test period in August.
Unless you got a nest egg, you don't get to do that shit. Yeah.
And like, I wouldn't go bankrupt if I didn't do that, but I'm not willing to pay that money. I'm not willing to pay the full tax on every single thing. It's
going to print.
So like, it has to go to print this year, 100%. So it will go to print. So that's the timeline. It is very loose, but also very set in stone in its own way.
Are you going to be in any conventions or running this online at any point in time where people can kind of see it in action?
I am trying to get back into that, but it's going to take me a bit. So first off, I'm not a traditional convention goer. I'm going to start doing that more. I've been to a couple and enjoyed it.
Go to the small ones, man. They're way more fun.
Very introverted. It is something where, like, when I went to Gen Con,
it's insanity.
It was fun. And then for about 2 weeks afterward, I was unproductive because I was so mentally
it taxes you, man. I am
So,
very
yes.
outgoing. I mean, I was doing 20-something conventions a year for a while. I highly recommend Gamehole Con if you've never been to it. It's beautifully ran. Gen Con's a big bitch, but there's a lot of contacts there.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna try to go, but I hadn't signed up yet, so I gotta now get on everything. But working on making sure that
Kickstarter,
was
man,
done has been all of my focus, and I was like, I can't split that. So
well, I hope you end up at some and you can start playing some of them and running them. Maybe run some stuff in the Shadowdark community so people can kind of see how it works.
I will, hopefully. This is the other thing where I'm trying to get back into it. But if you look through this book, you'll see that it's most of the tools are designed to support campaigns.
Sure.
I like campaign play.
Yeah.
I don't play one-shots. It makes it hard to do this because I can't just be like, I'm going to do a one-shot.
You cut a section out of one of your adventures and run that adventure as a one-shot.
I'm gonna try to get into it, but it is something where
it's a different design philosophy.
That's not my style. That's not my play style. I love a campaign. Playing for a year with my friends, that's this game to me. That is the game that I love. So I'm gonna try to do that stuff, but just tell everyone like that isn't my focus. That isn't my specialty. So it's gonna take a minute.
Or you find somebody else who has a specialty. To me, I love long campaigns as well, but a lot of people can't do them all the time, and I always give the 3-6 option, and then we vote if we're going to continue. If people's schedules are working. My live shows are 13 episodes. Everyone coming in knows my live show is 13 episodes. And we'll vote on a second season when the show ends. So, I mean, just transparent in the beginning. But yeah, Micah, awesome talking. I'm going to put you in the wings here. Is there any final things before we close out? And I go over to close out the show?
No, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
It was a ton of fun. I love your show.
Thanks.
Thanks for designing something for Aetherdark. Everybody that designs more things, the whole system gets better. And
it grows. It grows. That's the whole point.
That's how it works. Yep.
Yeah. All right, we'll stay in the wings here. I'll be right back. Everybody, thank you for joining us today. A little bit longer show. I wanted to make sure, well, actually not. This is shorter than the normal Rise in Design that's 4 hours. I hope this helps you kind of decide if this is something that fits on your shelf at home. If you want ship-to-ship combat, if you want to be able to build worlds, and feel like, maybe Spelljammer didn't do you fucking wrong, this is something I recommend picking up. The previews are there on the Kickstarter site. Links will be down below. They're obviously in the chat for people who are here live. Check it out. Look through what there is and the table that he is offering to you. I think that if you want vessel-based or ship-based combat for Shadowdark, this fulfills that for that sci-fi fantasy-esque level. I'm really excited about the setting. I'll dive into that more as it comes out for people, because you all know I like me some new lore, and I feel like there's some stuff in here maybe you haven't seen before. That's it for me on Rise in Design. Thank you for joining. You know the routines. You hit the buttons, you smash the things, you like the stuff. If you don't, you're not my friend. No, I'm just kidding. I'll see you guys on Thursday for Breachers and Shadowdark as we go into a brand new adventure tomorrow. That's it for me. Stay rotten, everybody.